So getting back to how Mouse ruined comics.
Okay.
All right, 30 seconds. Your 30 seconds are up. No more boomer music.
Stop right there, criminal scum.
You know, it would help if we were live.
Yeah. It says we're live. It says broadcast is an option.
Oh, it does? It says scheduled on my end. Maybe I'm the one that's messing up.
Well, there's a delay between the thing and the thing, so maybe it just hasn't gone live yet.
Oh no, I see you on the
says
YouTube.
Live.
Yeah, let me. It's fine. It's just
watch now, Matthew D. Reese, episode 175, Super Forces of Good and Skooling.
That was the worst, most fun title I have ever given anything ever. Guys, it is. I didn't mean to be the only guy on the screen here. This is ridiculous. I'm not alone. I have people with me. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
So it's a Wednesday. It's another episode of the Mattriarchy. I am here, Matt Reese, your host, and we are here to talk about the Twitless's Comics Creators Club. Which, wait, somebody's playing pool?
I didn't realize that I wasn't muted. They're playing pool in the background.
You know, Matt. We need to get a good outtakes video.
Yeah,
for moments like that.
Probably, but somebody would have to comb through the 100 hours or whatever of my show there is, and I don't know that I want to do that today. Anyway, we are here today to talk about the Comics Creators Club, where two creators get together to read each other's work with their compatriots and talk about how much better mine is than Twitless's. And I'm sorry, that was cheap, but I did think it would be funny, so I said it.
Oh, there we go. Now it says live on
Proof's in the pudding.
What? The proof of the pudding is in the eating. There's an old saying for you. So this was actually, believe it or not, guys, as self-serving as this topic is, it's not my idea. It was actually Twitless said, I'd like to compare, I'd like to read Forces and Super Schooled and talk about those in the milieu of they are. Because as the joke we've had ongoing is that Twitless has probably the second best superhero high school comic on the internet, and he says the same thing.
Well, hold up.
That features one character in a superhero school and one character in a supervillain school, and they need to find friendship and emotional bonding with one another.
Hold up. How many different web comics are there featuring a superhero school?
There's a few. So,
Over 9,000.
Not that many, but there's a few. Well,
at least 5.
The similarities are eerie, though. It was whatever radioactive goo was on the internet in the early 2000s. You both partook of it, and you both predicted My Hero Academia 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a thing. So, when we were backstage, before we get into talking about the books individually, and we ought to do some read-throughs. I'm guessing is that what we want to do at one point.
So we'll get to that in a second. We usually do the other person pitches the other person's work.
Oh, yeah. It's been so long since we did this. I forgot some of the shit.
We do a little voice acting. We do a little trolling.
Oh, do you still have the link to the elevator music? I can have that queued up in the background.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll get it.
I might actually have it here on the brand thing. Let's see here. So I have some music that I can that's just free with the thing now.
Yeah, but I've got specific volume control and stuff like that.
No, yeah, give me a second. I got it. All right, I will put it in private chat.
But before we get into working on that, one of the things that I want to go ahead and talk about a little bit is because in the backstage before we started going, Larry says, how old were you guys when you came up with all of this? And that's a good question. Because I think we were the same age, but because we are not the same age, it was not at the same time. But this was when Chris and I first put together Forces of Good and Evil. We did it to pitch to Mad Magazine in 2003. And so I would have been 25. Yeah. So there you go. That's how old I was. And then Chris, my co-creator on Forces, is about 4 years younger than me. So that's how old we were when we came up with Forces of Good and Evil back then.
Mm-hmm. So Cartoonicus and I met in a community college, and we met during a intro drawing class, I think, or drawing one. I think it was called drawing one, and we really hit it off, and we liked similar things and superheroes to an extent, and animation and adventure and comedy and the like, and we had a lot in common. It was interesting because it was one of those situations where you meet someone for the first time and then you realize you have like the same body of friends and you go, how come we've never met before? Because like we all knew the same people, had the exact same circle of connections, and so it was just kind of bizarre. And we lived in like I lived across town from him for a decade. So like I said, we'd never met really, but we originally pitched Super Schooled as a potential, I think, Flash animated series, I think. Something like that.
Okay.
That was back we were being really biting off more than we could chew. And we actually recorded some voice lines. I know we did that. They're still on a computer somewhere. But we planned it out as like kind of like an animated pilot. And then obviously I was a little more advanced for our current skill set. Because like I said, we met in community college. So that was like, what's first or second year. It's like technically like sophomore, like college sophomores essentially.
If you guys remember seeing that Sonic fan comic we did, that was my hard skill at the time. So
that was the first comic we did together. Actually, we did
that should tell you all you need to know.
We started off doing Sonic fan comics, which you can still read on our DeviantArt pages. But what was it? So we did we just become best friends? Yeah, it's essentially what happened. It's basically exactly that clip. Yeah, but no. So fast forward a little bit, and the project didn't really take off. It was just kind of like us spitballing ideas that didn't really go anywhere. And I went to I made a mistake. I went to a comic book convention. And I saw everybody, just creating and having the time of their life making stuff. And I just felt so bloody jealous of all these other people, indie people who were making comics and who were just living the dream. And I think I called Taylor up. It might have been either that night or it was the day after. And I said, we have just got to I will buy the website. I looked into it. It wasn't that expensive. I was like, we'll split the cost for it. We'll buy a domain. We'll just make a website. We'll make a webcomic. We'd initially, I think, tried to make a couple of strips before, and I got stuck at like strip number 7, and I think that's when we kind of quit. And then I put that strip aside, and I said, when I figure out how to do strip number 7, I'll go back to it. And then I just kept writing, and then just stuff kept flowing and flowing and flowing. And I've never gone back and done that strip. So there's this one joke that I never found that I could actually tell correctly. But there's a bunch of influences in there.
You ought to bring it out, man. I'll bet the 6 of us together could make gold.
You try that one joke that I couldn't
imagine that?
Make happen. But there was a bunch of stuff in there. A Sky High, I think, was a big influence. And superdickory.com, if everyone remembers Super Dickory, which was a collection of the old 60s, 70s Superman covers, the Lois Lane ones as well, where Superman's doing crazy things. And so there's a lot of inspiration for Captain Stupendous, and some of the antics came from just stuff we'd seen there. In fact, strip number 7 that I never did was a Super Dickory moment that I just couldn't make work in a strip. But that's a much longer story, but that's kind of how we got started there.
So to check it out. Now, when I first started Forces, everybody, I would try to tell them about what the deal was when we were back in the day. This is back in 06, 07. Everybody said, "Oh, just like Sky High.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, because we came up with this thing on our own in 03, and the nearsightedness of the mad editors kept us from making it big back in 03. I mean, if they'd just held on to it, just imagine the brilliance that we could have laid out there.
Sky High is a great movie, by the way. You should go watch it.
Yeah, Sky High.
Have you guys, okay, wait. So related to
I
Sky
mean, it's got
High,
Bruce Campbell in it.
have you guys ever seen? Oh, I don't remember what it's called. It's like called Supers or something, but it was like a Disney Channel original movie about a black superhero family, and I think it's like the first usage Disney made of the Marvel characters after they purchased them, and so like all the Marvel characters just show up at this family's house for a superhero party, but they're all using like their real secret identity.
It was
names. So it's like
called Up and Away, I think.
Up and Away. That's it. Yeah,
I'm not familiar with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
it's awful. It's not nearly as good as Sky High.
It
but
was
it's-
made like right in 2000.
Yeah. Disney kept the Disney Channel original movies. They kept trying until they got it right with Sky High.
I got we got Captain Cummings in chat. Neo Star is here. Good to see you.
Okay. Huh. Well, that was before Disney purchased Marvel, because that didn't happen until
Really?
it was after 08, after they made the Iron Man and the Hulk films. Those weren't Disney didn't own them then, and that's why they were produced by other film houses.
Oh, okay. So Disney was just being sneaky. All right.
Yeah. Or it could have been that they licensed them, because
Yeah.
Marvel was in like a lot of trouble then, and they were licensing their characters to everybody.
I just read a Harley Davidson
I
custom
saw that.
comic.
I saw that you were doing that. I was just like, wait, what?
It's really funny.
So anyway, so a little bit about the background, a little bit about the struggles and difficulties of making Not Sky High. So let's go in and tuck into our stories, our versions of this concept, this idea, and go in. So how do we want to move along? What do you say?
So we should probably do the elevator pitches, and then we can do the voice acting. Is probably what we should do.
Yes.
I think Cartoonicus. We'll give him a minute. I think Cartoonicus should pitch Forces of Good and Evil.
Okay.
Oh my. Okay.
No,
So,
I say everybody pitches Force of Good.
Yeah,
and Evil.
gotcha. We're just going around the circle.
Go around the circle.
No, I want to put him on the spot.
I gotta
Make the
I gotta
artist
keep
do a
notes.
writer job.
Exactly. Nothing could go wrong.
Everybody pitches it, and I take notes, and I turn that into my next ad campaign.
You get your pull quotes. Yeah. So like, so while we're doing that, we can then pull up some of the stuff we read today, and then we can get ready to do voice acting for the first however many pages we want to do there. There's quite a few characters, so we definitely have quite a lot for people to do there, which is cool.
Oh yes,
Yep.
that's we have lots of characters.
So Cartoonicus, do you need another minute to put together a short pitch to sell Forces of Good and Evil to our audience?
Yes, please. Give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, one of the things always gets frustrating. And I don't know. Tell me if you feel this way to it, Liz.
Yeah.
When you see on Twitter or Facebook or anyone, people are like, "Share me your original characters. Let's see what you have." And I'm just like, most of the times I just pass those right by, because I'm like, man, who am I going to pick? I've got 100 years of characters. I don't even...
Boone.
Boone is pretty awesome. Boone doesn't
just
have
let
a
me
lot
know.
to.
Oh, I was gonna say, let me know when you're ready. I'll start the elevator music, but
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Boone does not have a lot to do in the reading we had for today.
no, he doesn't really even show up until like the very end.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah, he wasn't one of our original at 8 characters I came up with in the very start. So, but in the Valentine's Day story, he kind of like all of a sudden he just becomes super important after that point, which wasn't
He's
in
my
the reading.
favorite. I need more Boone stories.
Yeah. I've got one.
All right.
That
Are you
I'm
ready?
looking, hopefully this year will have. Anyway, sorry.
Put you on the spot.
Just needed. Wait, this is my music.
Yep.
This is what I have to work with.
It's an elevator pitch, bro.
In a
Let's
world.
see how many floors you go up.
In a world where good and evil are defined by the system, the only thing that can stand in between chaos and justice is the clerical office.
Is that it?
For the elevator music and going on, that was awesome.
I think the music lasts for like an hour. So yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do a quick one too.
Okay, let me
Right.
reset the music. Was it too loud? I can lower it a little bit if I need to.
I think maybe just a smidge, just a smidge. In a world where kids are given aptitude tests, two young men are placed in the wrong schools. Follow Chad and Greg as they try to survive hero and villain training. Forces of Good and Evil has everything you're looking for in a webcomic. Heroes, villains, violence, women, and even baked goods. The baked goods may also be weapons.
I gotta say, Twitless, I would have gone with placed incorrectly, or were they? Because I
Or
think the
were they?
or were they?
I figure. I know. I just.
I was.
It's
I-
a Chekhov's gun question. What is Matt Reese setting up in future chapters?
The initial pitches that they were put in the wrong. I was going with the initial idea there.
yeah.
Yeah.
They do definitely seem misplaced. The goody two shoes Greg gets stuck into villain school, and Chad the bully gets put into hero school, and that's definitely a thing that goes on in the very first chapter of Forces of Good and Evil. But you said baked goods. Baked goods may also be used as weapons. My first thought was like one of those disclaimers. That
Yeah.
get, like, some offers not available in Nevada. You know,
which I think fits the spirit of kind of what you're going for in some places.
in some places, definitely.
Yeah. I wanted to fit into the pitch somehow that you're channeling the comics with an X, because there's some strong punk zine energy here.
Yeah.
So I really want to emphasize that. If you like the punk zines, if you like the R. Crumb, edgy, rough but heart kind of works, I think Force is going to be something you're really going to enjoy.
So let me ask you this. This is not the first time you've brought that up. So how do you think this would pair thematically with what Tonic is doing in Saving the World?
Oh, that's. I think there's definitely some strong overlap there. I think in tone. I think some of the spirit. I think there's a common spirit there. Yeah, definitely.
Because I really dig Saving the World. It's a fun, man. It's a fun run. It's just the like right amount of disrespect to the genre.
Yeah. Both of you have. I think you're, like I said, you're more angry than Tonic is. But both of you have this sort of like disregard for society. So
Tonic is like a perturbed guru, while Reese is like an angry hermit.
Yeah.
And I'll also say, you guys telling the story about one of you is wanting to make their comic a Newgrounds item, and the other one wanting to make it Mad. That really kind of makes me feel like the art makes more sense now, with where you were trying to cram it. I mean, I could totally see Super Schooled as something on Newgrounds, with a once every week, then once every other week, then once every month, then once every 6-month update.
Ouch.
Well, first
I mean,
off,
if you troll the forums, you could probably find an animator that would want to do like the first few pages as a single animation.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. I was making that joke more about my experience with animation on Newgrounds.
Sure. I was gonna say we actually updated really a ton. We slowed down
you did.
a little bit, but we still update quite a bit.
Yeah.
But
I
no,
think you guys are more regular than I am, aren't you?
yeah, just like a good old bowel movement.
Yeah.
Drink.
We eat
Make sure to take your Metamucil, kids.
Yeah.
Kids eat a salad because eventually you'll have to eat a salad.
Back in the old days when we were making web comics. Anyway,
let's jump into some voice acting. Yeah, let's.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do
Metal,
it.
can you pull up? Since you're our producer, do you want to pull up? The,
Yeah, I'm just gonna pull up the PDF.
Yeah.
You want to start at the very beginning?
Yeah, hold on.
I think we should, because I thought that was one of the most perfect established, ways to establish a comic that I've ever seen.
Cool. Well, thank you.
All right, so let me see here. If we read the first
present.
1, 2. So we need someone to be Chad. Obviously, we need someone to be Greg. We need somebody to be the teacher, the secret agent guy. We need a secretary.
The Agent Smith.
Yeah,
it's Agent Smith.
I figured. Then we need someone to be Baron von Strichter. I want to be Baron von Strichter.
Aw.
I was going to
Everybody
recommend you
wanted
for
to be Baron
Chad.
von Strichter.
I was going to recommend you for Chad Twitless because that would be an amusing off-character framing.
No, I'm gonna be the weird. I'm gonna put on my weirdest accent.
You can assign me a role.
I should probably be Greg because I have an equally high, squeaky, annoying voice.
What are you talking about? You have a very svelte ASMR tone. So
I will voice Agent Smith.
All right.
okay.
I will do that.
Can I be Chad?
Do it.
All right, I'm Chad.
We need to zoom in just a little bit, I think, to make that a little. Yeah, there we go. There, we can all see it. Cool. Thank you. So, we need a. I think we need a couple of sound effects narrator people. Larry, you can be the narrator and fill in.
Very good, very good. So let me scroll up
Sound
here.
effects, man.
One day at a normal high school, William Henry Harrison High School, a test is about to begin.
Hey, Greg, you dropped your pencil. And your pencil.
Chad,
And your pencil.
what'd you do that for?
And your pencil. Because that's how I be.
Oh, nobody's the teacher.
Metal.
Ahem.
If everyone is here, then let's begin. This test is designed to gauge your preparedness for the workforce.
Later, after the test, the kids are feeling nervous about the test.
Man, I'm really nervous about this test.
Why? It's not like it actually matters.
It doesn't matter. Don't you understand that this test could determine our future destiny? The animus of our potential lies within that sheet of paper. This is the zenith of our academic lives.
You're flipping nuts.
Students, the results of the tests have been posted on the bulletin board outside the classroom. I need Kathy Waitzel, Chip Buckman, Leonard Snubs, Chad Little, and Greg Mason to say the rest of you may go. Remaining... Oh, wait, actually, I think this is the next one.
I can't believe it. We failed an aptitude test.
That's stupid. You can't fail an aptitude test.
Remaining students, this is Mr. Smith. He'll take you from here. Good day.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Welcome, students. Your test results have placed you in a very small category. As you may or may not have surmised, I am an agent of the federal government. We are here in the business of creating superheroes and villains. Some of you have shown a proclivity towards evil, while others are suited for heroic activities. Thusly, you will be placed in appropriate training programs. You will each receive a manila envelope. Within that envelope is information pertaining to your future education. You will be expected to report to the location outlined in your packet, hero or villain, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
I am evil. I am so evil. You know how evil I am? This morning on the way to school, I kicked a dog.
wasn't a dog. That was me.
I know. I am so evil.
Do you have something you'd like to share with the class, with the rest of the students, Mr. Anderson?
It's little.
I'll be the judge of that, Mr. Anderson.
Not 8 a.m. the next day. A school in suburban Detroit.
It's
Wow.
actually rural Wisconsin.
I mean, that's
Wow.
almost as bad.
Take him to Detroit.
Wow, this is an odd-looking hero school. Pardon me, ma'am. My name is Greg Mason, and I'm supposed to meet Baron von Strichter to start my hero training.
That's a good one. Hero training.
Greg Mason, I am your guidance counselor and your master, Baron von Strichter. I am here to make sure that you will be your first, most evil villain you can be.
Huh?
There will be pain, blood, and torture. And if you succeed, we will be the best evil buddies ever.
I'm evil, so evil. I'm Oh, shit.
Who's gonna be Titania? We forgot to cast Titania.
Chad, are you Chad Little? I'm your guidance counselor, Titania. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm here too.
After school.
So, how was your first day at the new school?
Oh, sorry, that's me. They put me in the villain school. Villain school!
I know, isn't it bitchin'?
No! Look at me! I'm the exact opposite of evil. What am I doing there? And you! You weren't at villain school.
I know. They stuck me in hero school, but that's cool. My guidance counselor is hot, and she needs the Chad.
Shut up, Chad. You are so full of it. Sort of Third Reich wannabe psycho. I mean, the guy looks like fearless leader. He even has a scar. I mean, cruel and scary, and I think he likes me.
Awesome. So, we both got some action.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
I
feel like
appreciate the
we
Rocky
need
and
the-
Bullwinkle reference.
We need the. I feel like that ending is just it. That needs a Seinfeld music.
I'm realizing I don't think I quite got that joke the first time.
Oh,
Okay, wait, where's the Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Fearless leader?
Fearless
Oh,
leader.
yeah.
All right.
yes, yeah. That Baron von Strichter is very much a nod to Fearless Leader and Baron von Strucker in Marvel Comics, and like that whole World War II Cold War thing. So
I like how he likes him strictly just because clearly his aptitude is just so high that it's like, I'm going to turn you into the best evil villain ever.
yeah, and that's actually that's a theme of the third story too. That we I don't know. I don't want to just gush about my own stuff, but man, we really put that in there and very intentionally, and that was a lot of fun to do. And still, I mean, we're gonna be playing more with that coming up, but yeah.
Well, like I
Alright,
said, I
so-
thought this did such an excellent job of establishing everything you needed to know, nice and concise and very quick and to the point, and making it funny every step of the way. There's always another twist to come out, and I love that the fact that it's the agent of the federal government who is basically playing both sides.
Mhm.
So accurate.
Got in there early, didn't you, Matt?
Hello, I am representing the deep state.
Yeah. I have a thought. So when we'll probably get into more of this when we start comparing the two. But what's really kind of interesting to me is how, because the premise is similar, it's sort of like forcing me to think about the format. So Super Schooled is doing the 4-panel and Sunday panel format, and Matt, I noticed that a lot of his punchlines, come at the end of a page, which I think is like a good logical thing for a a comic book artist to do, who's using the whole page. And it seems like, I don't know, for Forces of Good and Evil, the humor comes kind of from the characters acting out across longer periods of time. So I think a lot of Chad and Greg's humor comes from just like their attitudes towards their situation. It's maybe a bit more South Parkian.
I was gonna say my favorite jokes are often not the my favorite jokes are less the end joke or the maybe somewhat setup one, and it's the incidental ones, like the one that hits right before the setup one.
Right.
And a lot of times it's like it's that joke right there, right before the main kind of like Seinfeld beat that like I'm actually really like, oh, that's really funny. Like the kicking the dog one, and it's like, no, that was me.
Right.
Like that's really funny. So like I said, my favorite moments are like the like almost the side humor, the sideshow humor almost.
Well,
Oh yeah, like I
like
think
every-
some of the best moments in this whole thing actually came in a later chapter during the field day, and it's because like wacky stuff is going on while the adults are trying to have a serious conversation.
Yeah, and that's one thing we really wanted to try to do too, is like balance the comedy with the pathos, because like these kids, their situation is ridiculous, and this is definitely a comedy story, but like they have serious things going on in their lives. Like Greg is totally out of place in the world that he finds himself in, but he has this bizarre drive to keep trying hard, even if he's trying something that he doesn't believe in. And that's something that's kind of weird, that puts him at odds with things. But Greg and Jagged Princess and some of the other characters, they come from broken homes and they've got their own like hangups as they're approaching this world that has all these expectations for them, and that shapes how they're going to react to it. So we want to have, it's got this like subtext of drama, but like we're trying to play all of that through the irreverence and the comedy of it all. So I guess we're trying anyway, I guess, you know.
So I have a question. Did a future Republican senator from Ohio, as he was later retconned in the TV show, influence Greg in any way?
Wait, what?
Alex P. Keaton. At the end of Spin City with Michael J. Fox, they revealed that Alex P. Keaton became a senator from Ohio.
Oh, no, I've not. I've seen like 2 or 3 episodes of Spin City, but I didn't see it until,
right.
You know, I was past.
Well, let's do the thing. One thing we love to do on Comics Creators Club is to kind of just go through the panel and have everybody kind of say one of like what was their favorite moment, like what are some of the elements they really like, and kind of like then generate some questions, like what are some of the questions that we have, or things that we saw that we thought the creator was getting at, so we can kind of dive into some dive into the works in a little bit more depth, and then usually we give the creator an opportunity to ask and say, hey, what did y'all think of blank?
Is that only the part we just read now, or the
whole thing? Yeah, the whole thing that we read. Yeah, because we read about 5 chapters, I think.
I think so. Yeah,
I actually because I do not only my homework. I'm the teacher's pet. I read 7 chapters. So
well, yeah. So just so everybody knows, I'll tell a little bit about this before we get into that part. The version I sent out to people is like the 3rd work in process version of what will be the volume 1 manga. And so it's a little different format than the website. There's some of the art that's been changed. Some of the lettering has been modified.
Shading's a little different too. It's more gray tone as opposed to regular black and white. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Which I think works way better for it than the original panels were, the gray tone version.
Really? So, I guess maybe it's I think the black and white matches the zine aspect better for me. But maybe the gray tone matches Mega. I'm not sure, but
yeah, the one thing I like about the gray tone version, and why I decided to go with it for this, is that I think some of the stuff that using the gray tones that I've been doing has allowed it to separate some of the foreground and background that when Chris and I were first doing it, neither of us are artists, so there was some of that using line weight to separate the foreground and the background kind of we weren't very good at it, and some of these gray tones allowed that.
I think it just helps with the flow of the reading is more of what I'm getting to.
So that kid with the tie should So okay, we'll address that question later on, Nanji. I swear. So
Also, I'm pretty sure at least half of this panel has read up to chapter 7 at the very least, because I know last time when we were supposed to be reading the Ren Fair, Marm ended up reading the first 7 chapters of Forces of Good and Evil instead.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So okay, so let's move on to the next section of the question of the thing.
Panel just saying what they like the best. Let's start from bottom, work our way to the top. So Larry, what did you like about Forces of Good and Evil chapters 1 through 5? Take us some specific
big
places.
thing I really like is it clearly had a tone vision, and it stuck with that tonal vision throughout the whole piece. And a lot of more humorous comics, they're not really good with their tone. They're good with, being funny here and there, but the tone's consistent throughout the whole work. Everything kind of flows. I like that. I also like the character arc for Greg.
Give us a specific place. We can maybe even pull it up on the document we got here.
Yeah.
The part where the guidance counselor gives Greg his 5-step plan for being the best supervillain.
Yeah, I'll find that in a second.
Yeah.
That's really the point where we see Greg's character arc fully come into fruition.
Yeah.
It's the next page or whatever.
Yeah, it's right here. There we go. And then he starts going through it, and it actually does work very well with the fact that there was like the 5 steps or like phases of
grief.
That was the previous one.
grief, and then he's got 5 things that he has to do too, so they kind of like line up in different ways.
It's like poetry; it rhymes.
Yeah.
And also, I took handing the manila envelope almost like he said, "Here, no, you think you're not evil? Here, look at your test results." And that this feels to me like this is the moment where Greg starts to accept, well, maybe this isn't a mistake. I mean, I don't know.
I will. Yeah. All right. Cool. So Cartoonicus.
So I had been reading bits and pieces of this comic for a while, but had never gotten, actually gone back to the beginning and started.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that first chapter just totally put everything in a new perspective for me. I'm in love with just that whole idea of them being in the wrong schools, especially because, as I put in my introduction, if it may not be the case, but at least in my headcanon, I want to think this is all due to some stupid government administrative error, right? And that just makes me laugh so much. Although, to be honest, I suspect it may just be because Chad is strong and Greg is smart. But yeah, and as I was saying, I really appreciate how things tend to get laid out. There's pretty much a joke every few seconds, and every 3 jokes minimum, the comic will totally turn your expectations on its head. There's always a new twist that's going to make you go, I get it. I see what you're doing there. I loved chapter 2 with its 5 stages of grief. That was just hilarious. I was rolling on the floor watching each part come down to it. And it was almost like just before you got to that moment, you could almost start to see it coming. And that just makes it all the funnier. Because, it's like your journey. You're going along with it. You're like, oh, okay, yep, that's exactly what I thought, And I love that kind of comedy. So.
Awesome. So I think that's chapter 2, right? I think chapter 2 was also probably one of my favorites. And if you want to scroll to the Donna Matrix page, it's one of my favorite jokes, and it's a great example of the humor where the secondary joke. It's chapter 3. Sorry, chapter 3. Yeah,
it's chapter 3.
So yeah, chapter 3, yeah, Dominatrix, and the great example here of. There we go. So just scroll a little bit further, right there. All right. So at the bottom of the page, there's kind of like a second joke, which is kind of like more about like the trope, essentially, about like, superheroes and supervillains. And that, to me, that's the joke that you kind of see coming. The one that you don't see coming, which to me is like the better joke, is so she's kind of doing her thing where I'm doing my villain monologuing thing, and the hero got away. What can we learn from this? So she said after he had escaped, and it's the immigrant, by the way, who shows up in Zing comics, by the way. So I noticed the Zing references, including the one to Professor Putty, which was interesting. But after he had escaped the robotic chimpanzees, there was nowhere I could go. He caught me and foiled my plot. So can anybody tell me what went wrong? Yes, Jagged Princess. Putting too much faith in Swiss-built robotic chimpanzees. Exactly. That's great. That is an excellent joke, and you don't see it coming exactly, which is why it's so funny. So because like the kind of trope ones, it's like, oh, I see where you're going with the trope one, but that one is just it comes at you from the side. It's a side angle joke, which is
there's a lot of great dialogue. I was reading one of the most recent ones recently, where he was introducing all the members of the hero team and their powers.
Yeah,
and each one just built on, and the next it was like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting that.
Well, let me. So what I want to emphasize here is that this is something that I like to do in Super Schooled as well, which is to have certain jokes where you may be able to see some of it coming, but then to put other kind of like side jokes, and sometimes, in my opinion, that joke is actually the funnier one.
Oh yeah.
And I often try to put those even in the first panel, for the four panel setup.
And of course, Twitless, you're going to hate this, but this is what I've always said I love about Jim Davis.
I'm going to kill you.
Garfield over there right now and kill you.
Okay.
You know what? That needs to be like an April Fool's Day Super School parody moment.
We actually introduced a cat.
All of the Garfield.
Technically.
All of the Garfields from Garfield minus Garfield get teleported into the Super School world. All of them.
Oh, jeez. But no, yes. But I want to just point out that in terms of like, and this is something to pay attention to for our audience, especially. Let me answer a couple. Let's answer a couple questions from chat. Abigail says, "Can't wait to fall asleep on another Mattriarchy." Were we that boring? Nanji says, "So I only read year 1, but do Chad and Greg have any powers?"
Yeah. So Greg does not. Chad does, but he doesn't know it. So in the course of this of his junior year in high school, they're both high school juniors. In the course of the junior in high school, they start to develop in a way that other people notice. So I don't want to spoil it for people that want to go back and read it, because we kind of trickle that in.
But if you do want to see his power, you can go back and watch the very first Comics Creator Club, because it was in that story.
Yeah. He does use them in that story. Actually, yeah. And
that is what you call foreshadowing.
Oh gosh. Kick him off the panel. Jim Tuner says this book has a Garfield ambiance. The main characters are like Garfield and Odie.
There's definitely, I suppose, some of that.
It's interesting.
I suppose you could make that correlation.
So wait, are we saying that Odie's evil?
I mean,
what?
More like chaotic neutral. But I want to before I let Marm say some awesome things. I do want to point out that in terms of one thing that's very important, I do want to point out, and this is something that I want to give credit to Reese doing here in this example and in other places, is that doing a humor strip. It takes a lot of practice. Not every joke lands, so sometimes we experiment, but there is a craft and a structure to them. And so it's not just, throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks, although sometimes that does work. There is a structure to humor. There's a structure to humor strips. And it's really cool to be able to observe some of those structurings. And like I said, coming at you from the side angle with the funnier joke here is just, like I said, I really like that. because it's like, like I said, it's not the one you see coming that actually makes you belly laugh.
Well, and one thing
so-
I definitely want to take the time to point out too, especially about these early strips, these were all co-written with Chris Lawton, who's kind of gone on to other stuff. So I can't take full credit for anything in the first 400 or 500 pages.
Oh, okay.
Probably 400 pages.
Well, I would say it shows, goes to show how effective collaboration can be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and our process on this was basically to sit down over coffee or whatever, and we just would hammer out. We'd come up with the wide points of the story. We want our trajectory to be, and then we just page by page go through it and plan the jokes and where are the jokes, where are the page turns, and move on from there. So, but yeah, so
I'm kind of
that was,
curious. I'm kind of curious if Super Schooled had. So I guess this is for Cartoonicus and Twitless. Are you guys more like Twitless writes, Cartoonicus draws, or is that they're like this? Hey, how about this idea? How about this idea between you two?
I said this in a previous stream. The situation basically goes like this. Twitless takes the reins.
I know what he's going
He
to say.
tells me what to do, what to draw, who to draw, how to draw it, and I add one simple little detail. I ignore him.
And then Cartoonicus tells me all the ideas that we should do, and then I do the exact same thing. So it's a wonderful collaboration.
So in other words, you use the same method they used to make the Dark Tower movie, but it's only successful for you as opposed to for Sony.
So, like, for the serious answer is that it's mostly me writing, but there is back and forth, like I said, and sometimes Cartoonicus has like a really good idea, and I work it in as a strip or a plot point. Sometimes like he tweaks a thing or whatever, but it's definitely a collaboration. It's more on me on the writing side, but there are definitely things, like I said, there's plenty of stuff and moments and jokes where Cartoonicus, like, that's him, that was his joke, or that was his moment. We'll talk about more about that later. This is
This would have been a great question for the second.
I was going to
half.
say, yeah. Marm, what are you doing?
The reason I got to that is it's interesting to me that these are both comics with dual creatives working on them, and they're both. I guess this is true of comedy strips in general. Is you have characters interacting and roasting one another, and that the comedy comes from the conversation. But I guess just the thing that struck me in both of them is they have this element of a realness to I see a conversation happening in both strips. In Reese's strips, I mostly see it happening between Chad and Greg, and I think Chad and Greg are sort of like the central focus, and he's building the world around them, but they're kind of like our main threat. Like there's literally one chapter devoted to Chad, one chapter devoted to Greg. They have a parallel structure. Could you actually go to Greg saying I want to die towards the end of the five steps to villainy?
Let me get
All
to
right.
it.
And I'll probably talk about you guys' work more when we get to that. But yeah, maybe like there's this element that when two people work on a strip, I sort of see two perspectives. So Greg has he's miserable, right? Like everything bad is happening to him. He doesn't know why this is happening to him. Chad, in contrast, is full of this confidence. It seems like the world should be punishing him, but the world isn't punishing him. It seems to be rewarding him, but he also has his moments of fragility and sadness when he finally has to deal with his grief and accept that he isn't where he thought he was supposed to be. So, this is contrasted with the complete absurdity of like Nazis and lasagna people and all that stuff. But there's some really real moments.
Now, Marm, he's a generic late 20th century fascist.
Yeah, generic military leader person. Yeah, okay.
He's Nazi.
I think the pathos comes a lot when Chad talks to Greg, because Chad is more complicated than a stereotypical TV cartoon jock bully. He has those qualities, but it's sort of like there's a little bit of encouragement in chat, even when he's ruthlessly making fun of Greg. Like, yeah, he wants to be a villain and he thinks he's evil, but maybe there's a little goodness in him deep down that he hasn't even seen yet, right? Yeah, I think they're called like pet the dog moments, like just those moments where the two of them come together and they kind of like talk about how their day went. That's what kind of like grounds it and makes it feel real to me, and it makes the silliness even funnier because it's the contrast between the silliness and something you can really resonate with, I think.
Well, and another element that I couldn't believe was similar about both our comics again.
What's that?
The meeting together on a park bench and going back.
Yeah, I thought that. Okay. You even both have the premise of they meet after school to talk about things. Yeah. Okay, now maybe I can pick a fight between you two. So I think.
Well, and I want to give a little bit of background information since we brought that up. They typically meet at the mini mart and hanging out in front of the mini mart, and we specifically did that because when I first moved back to Scotts Bluff after I dropped out of college, Chris and we'd been in the same circles, but because of our age difference, we weren't really friends, right? I went to school with his older brother. I thought his sister was cute, blah, 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 high school stuff, right? But I didn't really know Chris because he was just that much younger than me. But when I came back, we were both working, right? We were both working at Walmart. So all of a sudden, like him being like 16, 17 and me being like, 19, 20 didn't make a difference because, we were working the same job, the same hours, the same kind of whatever. And so we would start talking about whatever, and we would hang out at the mini mart. And that was like a thing we did because it was right downtown, blah, blah, blah. We both lived on the other side of the downtown. So if we were walking anywhere, we'd have to cross the mini mart to get to where we were going. So that was the kind of the thing. So that's why we wanted to have the mini mart as part of it, because that actually reflected back to some of our experience coming from the small town. And we set this in rural Wisconsin, but we wanted someplace that would have the same qualities as Scotts Bluff. That was close to urban centers, but it wasn't urban. That was knew about culture, but was separated from culture, right? That was, that people had heard, but it was all that. It's kind of that thing. So that in that rural type environment.
I love what Abigail here says. Have we seen both comics in the same room at the same time?
Right here. That's happening right now.
It's another Berenstain paradox that we're living in.
I kind of like how you described the mini mart, almost like the mini mart is the point of neutrality in the setting.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that is markedly different between our setup and Super School setup is that in theirs, and I had forgotten about this till I started reading through it again. You guys' schools are on the other side of the streets, but ours are on the other sides of town, right? And so, when you're in there's even in a small town like I've got here, there are people that don't go to the east side of town. They just don't. And so that was something we wanted to incorporate in our story too.
Yeah, sure.
I just thought it would be.
It's 4 panels. It needs to be punchier.
I know. I was just saying. I just thought it was really funny. It was a joke. a lot of the plot points are jokes that just become plot points.
We want to do that as a joke too. So like these guys grew up in this town and didn't know that there were a hero and villain high schools in town. So somehow that's a conceit.
I want to say somehow you're in a small town and never find out about this. It's like, I know the name of the 1.5 bars in town. How do I not know that these two schools are here?
Yeah.
Something about the art. So earlier, Twitless was talking about like the underground zine vibe in Forces of Good and Evil. So again, it's like reading both of these comics forces me to think about what's different, because you're both technically like outsider. You're very independent, very outsidery artists. You're doing your own thing, but you're not doing the same thing as one another. So I tweeted a picture of, I think, Greg making a horrified expression and Tails making a horrified expression and Tails gets trolled. Like that's become my favorite example of it's a comic I can point to explain the appeal of Outsider comics, because it's sort of like you have this like really scratchy style to like, were you using MS Paint? What was the program?
We were drawing on paper.
Okay, and then scan it.
And then scan it in, and then we letter it. Chris typically, if he was doing the lettering that week, he would use the GIMP to do the lettering in. And then if I was doing the lettering that week, I would use Paint Shop Pro, because I found a cheap copy of version 8, which was the last version Jask made before they sold the company to Corel. So it's the last full version of the program. And for a program that I spent $30 on in 2005, it's ridiculously powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, and way more user friendly than GIMP was, even though GIMP can do stupid things.
That's GIMP's biggest problem, is that it's not user friendly at all.
Well, Metal, let's jump on to you. What's your favorite aspect?
Yeah, I actually brought it up earlier when we were talking about the side jokes.
Jim Tuner's killing me, guys. Did you see this?
Yeah.
It was during field day. Yeah, right. So like there's all this stuff going on. You've got basically it starts with these two girls trying to murder each other for what is clearly an intentional misunderstanding from somebody who decided that Greg is her boyfriend. Just straight up, he didn't have a choice in it. And then a girl that he was interested in, but she doesn't even understand that yet. And they get into this death match. But like this whole serious thing is going on. Everybody feels like they're going to die. And then one of the girls' mother and aunt are having this like fairly serious conversation about her while she is attempting to kill another student.
Yeah.
And the pasta lad joke was actually pretty funny, because he's like, "Oh, it was the pastinator being the bad guy. I thought we'd be great nemesis. Like, we work so well together."
Yeah.
And then it's like, nah, these brothers who have the same power are just going to be nemesis anyway, because it happens with brothers.
Yeah, there's a lot of great parallels in this.
Yeah, the Pasta Brothers are they've actually got, there's a whole story later on that's just about the Pasta Brothers, so that's fun.
I even kind of liked the whole tattoo Game Boy thing going on here. I think out of just the chapters, Field Day was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, Field Day was a lot of fun to write.
Now we should take a second to jump to the most recent comic too, so you can see how the art has.
Yeah, the art's entirely different because we have somebody who's a very good artist who's doing it. It's Mrs. H, who was just in the chat a little bit ago, is doing the art.
Oh, yeah.
I was not aware of that.
It's on Webtoons.
So why isn't everybody
I'm gonna pull it up?
It's because that's the crossover. Like, it's, we got to keep those universes intact. The whole point of the pickle thing is that it's a multi-dimensional joke.
Yeah, we can jump from year one to senior year. Let me find a good one with some characters that we've already seen.
Neostar says, "Hey Matt, I haven't shown you Jimmy Cruz yet, have I?"
I think I have seen that character. I think.
Yeah, here we go. This should be. I don't know if it. Yeah. Yeah, the two of the same characters right there: Jagged Princess and the Dominatrix.
Donna Matrix.
Donna Matrix, yeah.
Which was a brilliant name, by the way.
Thank you. That was mine. Not all of them were mine, but that one was mine.
All right. So Matt or Reese.
I'm sorry.
What did you think about your comic?
No, I was
What
gonna
do
say,
I think of my comic? I love it.
Yeah,
It's great. At the risk of sounding like, I don't know, I really like my book. We've been making it for a really long time and have had a very small readership. Part of that's because it's hard maintaining schedule. It's hard keeping people interested, and I know that's definitely part of it.
Wait,
I'm
speaking
sorry,
of which,
what?
is Larry asleep?
Is someone snoring?
Yeah, I think Larry's sleeping. We're so entertaining here on our panel. Yeah,
It's ASMR, guys.
Marm is getting so many good clippable. Like last week, it was Matt's mic farting, and this week it's sorry, Abigail, you're not the first one to sleep tonight, so you can you can.
So
I think the more important part was less of what you like about your book. We were getting to the part where you ask us what.
So I do have
missed and stuff.
one of the big questions that I have. I have always been very impressed with, and this is like, once again, that sounds like an arrogant thing, but I've always been really impressed with how Chris and I were able to do the humor together.
Mm-hmm.
And when Chris decided to step back, and I wanted to keep the story going. And that's actually about the time, strangely, that I met Rolf, and he was wanting to draw comics, and I had comics that I wanted drawn, and we worked together on 3 pretty long stories that are part of Forces. But I wasn't ever sure that I had the chops to keep the jokes up in the same spirit as both Chris and I rubbing off of each other and pointing it back at each other like we did. So one question I have for those of you guys who have read, this set and like Panic at the Ren Fair, do you guys feel like Panic at the Ren Fair has any of the same spirit as we had the two of us?
I'm not up to Ren Fair yet.
So I guess it's really just Twitless and the Metal, who I know are
right.
I'm considering. Let me think.
Son, putting you on the spot.
I think it gets more traditional plot concerned. Because I remember with the moments with so it's doing something different, I think, with Ren Fair. I don't the moments that are coming to mind the most are, for example, Chad using his abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And the effort you put into working with the calculations and and that the kind of lore building and such, because like I said, you're very much a world builder. So I definitely think that things take a world building turn at that point.
Well, I was going to say similarly, I think it takes more of a character building turn, because like there's a lot of characterization early, but I have no idea why people are making noises in the background. But like it's definitely like you care about the characters, but a lot of the characterization is very humor based in this early part, probably because of the conversation with the jokes. But like in that world building later on, we're more in the characters' heads than we were before in Panic of the Ren Fair, and you get to like kind of get to know the character from the inside a little bit more to flesh them out, and I think that's a huge difference.
Cool.
And did Larry wake up again yet? Can we? I think Cartoonicus had to step away for a second.
Larry, if you're alive, type in the private chat.
I know, right? Can we do a wellness check?
We could probably send him a DM, see if his DMs chime.
You should play the Mario lullaby music and then unmute Larry and see if he snores to it.
That's
No.
Yeah, I don't have that put together.
You can't do my highly specific nerd joke at Larry's expense. No.
Listen, I already have the elevator music queued up for the second half of the show. I don't want to queue up too many things.
That could be a real risk. Overload the system.
We don't have the soundboard set up yet, you got to work on it.
Oh, Larry's alive. He's in the private chat.
All right.
Can you guys not hear me at all?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
We lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I took some 4 bedtime sinus medications and some drowsiness unexpectedly came upon me.
We are aware.
Greg is a sweet baby gherkin.
Oof.
So, but yeah, I don't know that I have a lot of questions on it. I can't think of any other than looking at that.
I was taking another look over Ren Fair because I remember there's still humor being brought, but I think it's being brought differently. And I definitely, like I said, it is definitely going more into, I would say, more traditional kind of world building, story building. Whereas the early chapters are more, punchy in terms of that humor. So if you're looking for more of that, like I said, I definitely think that, you can still bring it. It's just, I guess if you want to put more of it more often.
Well, and yeah, there's definitely times I think that fits. I mean, like a lot of the stuff I want to do in Ren Fair, hit such specific notes because of where we were using that story to kind of set up, and that story and all the way back to which nobody here has read yet, but if you go back to Parents' Day, and even back a little further, but I mean, especially in Parents' Day, we're setting up some of these characters post high school lives, and so we're kind of laying seeds along the way with that. So when we were first starting out, we did not have like the big picture vision laid out, but that was something that, and like Chris had been doing webcomics ahead of time, doing like gag a day stuff. So this was sort of a marriage of those things too that we were working on.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see more of this, but you don't have to overload it, depending on your goals.
Why was Cartoonicus not in the panel?
I went there for a minute.
Oh, he disappeared.
It's okay. I added you back in. You're here.
I guess we were so boring that the internet fell asleep.
The internet fell asleep. Oh, jeez.
I guess that's possible.
The ghost of Testify is screaming right now at me.
Thomas Kate Lore, everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Because I didn't come up with a good amount of questions, which that works out. I guess let's move on to
well, one last question. Was Jagged Princess inspired by an actual goth girl in your life?
Oh, that's a good question.
Many goth girls. Okay, so
all of them.
Jagged Princess and Rapunzel were specifically designed after like the two kinds of girls that I dug, right? I had a thing for,
that makes sense,
for edgy goth girls and like girl next door girls. And that was like in high school and in college. And like by the time I came back, I was settling down a little bit. Well, I mean, I was never crazy, but anyway, point being, that was something that those two were sort of like the postmodern Ginger and Marianne kind of archetype. And so I wanted to play with those. And especially because Greg and Chad, as we had defined them, had such vastly different personalities that seeing them interact with these, classmates in this way would be awkward and therefore could be funny. So
I think in general, those two butting heads and just all the story around Jagged Princess might actually be my favorite part of the Core Forces story, especially in the later on where they have the whole like mother-daughter dinner thing where she brings her boyfriend at the pizza place.
That story. It's called Happy Birthday, All Your Friends Are Here.
Yeah, and I think that's actually my favorite part of the whole comic that I've read so far.
That story is so much fun. Like I can't even express to you. Like that was like that story. That was one of the stories that was my idea. And I said, Chris, I want to do this. And Chris is like, okay. And he's like, okay, and here's all the players that are going to be involved. And Chris is like, okay. And I'm like, no, seriously, it's going to be awesome. He's like, no, it's going to be awesome. So, but I had this vision in my head of how I wanted that story to work out. And even up until the end of the story with the epilogue, that was just, I mean, I'm not saying it was all me, but like all of that together, like that, I think we were hitting something like real special. I know nobody except me and Metal has read that story, but I think we were really hitting something really special with that story.
Oh, no, that's a great one. I think people should read that one specifically.
Yeah,
It's out of order, just do it. Jump to it.
It's on forceofgoodandevil.net. It's called Happy Birthday, All Your Friends Are Here. It's got the cover is actually a painting that I did for the cover. Wow. So I actually did a real life painting that's sitting in a closet in my house somewhere to make that cover. So
while you're on this page, something about Jagged Princess I wanted to praise that I think this is going to segue beautifully into Super School. But I appreciate how you have more than just Chad and Greg who have a connection between the two schools. So by giving Titania a hero, a daughter in the supervillain school, characters outside of the protagonists care or you have an interest in what's going on at the other school, right? So because it's an absurd world, adding logical connections to the absurd world adds opportunities for humor, and it makes the world they live in feel more real. And a lot of the humor in Super Schooled comes from how do you logically create a world where there is a superhero and a supervillain high school right across from one another. And then quite a few gags are kind of based on how do things work when you're in that world. So the world helps serve the characters.
So all right, let's if we're ready, we can keep things moving. So for Super Schooled, I think we should maybe read the first couple, but they're embarrassing in some ways. My writing is terrible, and Cartoonicus's art is not as refined as it became. So I only want to read a couple of those, and then I think Cartoonicus, do you want to pull some of your favorites from those first couple of chapters, and we can just skip to those?
But before that, Reese has to do an elevator.
That's
pitch.
right.
Yes,
we gotta cue up that elevator. That's gonna put everybody else to sleep.
Are you ready for it? I could.
It's supposed to be
start
short.
The music anytime.
Yeah. Let me see. Heroes. Are they there for the public good, or are they a danger to everyone around us? Villains, are they just capitalists with too much time on their hands? These are questions that might be answered, but aren't in Super School. It's an adventure of high school students from hero and villain school, finding out that they have more in common than apart. It's a story of love, friendship, and dastardly evil. Check it out, Super School.
That's a pull quote. I'm clipping. We're gonna clip that one.
Oh yeah, I clipped the whole thing. I tried to let it run for a little bit so you could get a good clip.
That makes me want to go read Super School.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. That was the point.
Oh, well done. Okay. All right. So let's do a little voice acting so we can get our audience whet their appetite a little bit.
I'm getting it. Pulled up back to the first page.
We'll start off with first page. We'll read a first couple. You guys can see how terrible we were when we started. Oh heavens!
I love seeing that kind of jump, Brad is kind of like a simple, I don't know, almost stick figure man in the first few comics, and then by the end of the first arc, you're doing giant tentacle monster robot battles with ray guns firing off. You really increased your ambition by the end of arc
remember, what Trillis was saying is that we started this years and years.
The dates right there. It's 2010.
We actually published it and then canceled. And then several years later, picked up on it again. So literally overnight, you go from one strip that looks like this old stuff to the next, and then it's completely.
Yeah, this is almost 5.5 years difference if we're looking at the two starting dates.
Yeah. All right. I'll read the first one. It's just a caption: "The first day of school, a time for new beginnings, high hopes, and massive property damage."
Mom, I broke my room again.
All right. So we'll read. We'll just do maybe the first.
Yes, I'm Brad.
Yeah, this one has to do a little more loading because we don't have a PDF for it.
Yeah. This is who wants to be stupendous.
I want to be Captain Stupendous.
All right. Marm.
I mean, everybody wants to be Captain Stupendous.
Marm, I'm gonna
because he is the best character.
Yes.
Well, you got to be Draco.
Who?
Oh yeah. Okay. Ladies and wait, but that's not Captain Stupendous speaking. That's his introductory.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's
that's right. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. This is more. I'll do this one again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your first day at Hero High School. Introducing our principal. His super strength and speedy power flight have saved Centrifugal City countless times. His style is unmatched. No one can make fighting bad look so good. Please welcome Captain Stupendous. Crack! Crack!
Ah!
Help me!
Don't worry, I'll lower your tuition.
My dad's gonna sue you so hard your tights won't fit.
These make me cringe on some level.
Oh, where's the Rob Liefeld joke? Where's my Rob
Okay,
Liefeld?
we'll hit that one. Okay.
Welcome, freshmen. Today marks the beginning of an awesome journey for you to become an awesome superhero like me. We will give you everything you need to start your own awesome careers. You will learn to be awesomely brave. You will learn to be awesomely heroic. You will learn
To be awesomely repetitive.
Sorry.
I was going to say learn the meaning of blunt force trauma.
I thought we had that covered already.
Which is a callback to the previous strip.
Oh, that's a great gag. I liked it when I read it again, but hearing it out loud makes it so much better.
Comic
And again,
book
looking at these visuals, and now that I know that this was supposed to have been a Flash animated cartoon at one point in time, this all makes perfect sense. From that period of time, that's exactly the Flash animated humor.
Oh, definitely. These first few strips, I think you'll definitely see Twitless coming off of a mindset, of having originally scripted an episode.
I mean, they look like
The
straight up
dialogue.
just frames clipped out of a Flash animation.
Is this so? Wait, when Twitless, when you said you froze at comic 7, did you publish the first 6 comics?
We didn't publish. We made them, and then I got stuck.
Okay.
And then we just paused for a bit, and then I finally was like, you know what? I'm just gonna skip comic 7, and we're just gonna. And then like a little time had passed, and that's where you see the level up in the art. And then like I started it, and I like never stopped. So it was literally, and it was a great writing lesson to all the boys and girls in chat. If there's something that is a wall and you can't overcome it in your writing, skip it, come back to it later, and you'll either find a way to make it work, or you'll never look back and you'll go, oh, that was the one thing that I couldn't make work, and it was probably a terrible idea anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay, no, here's your Rob Liefeld joke. We'll do this one. We'll do a couple other.
All right. Being a hero isn't about having awesome powers like me. It takes courage. It takes bravery. It takes fearlessness and valiance. It's all about thinking of others before yourself, of fighting for justice and punishing evil. But most of all, it's about gratuitous muscle structure and looking really good in spandex. I like how one butt cheek is significantly bigger than the other.
And it's the far one.
I've tried to I've tried to understand the anatomy of this panel for years. I still can't. I still don't understand what's going on here. But everyone knows that shelf chest Captain America he did. That was the reference image. It was like Cartoonicus, we're doing this, and he took it and like somehow managed to level up on that.
Well, also I should point out, I learned who Rob Liefeld was because of this strip.
Oh,
I
gives me
on a
Crimson
whole
Chin
journey
vibes.
through
I
Google
like
Images showing me all about this guy. We went through, blogs of people talking about history of Rob Liefeld. I got an education that day.
So I love this. I love this from the chat. Mrs. H says, "Why can I feel the spit flying when this guy is talking? My face feels wet." And Neostar says, "Vaudeville All Might over here."
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so
Also reminds me of like Powdered Toast Man because of the butt thing.
Yes. That's that. Yes. God, I hadn't even thought of that.
Okay, I'm gonna roast something really specific about your old art that you fixed later.
Oh, no.
His chin looks like lips in a Foxtrot comic. So I thought he was like making a ooh face while simultaneously talking, but it's actually his chin rising up above his mouth. Right?
I noticed that as well, but I didn't
I
know
can't
what.
unsee that now. What have you done to me?
Okay, are we going to keep reading
Wait.
a few more? Or are we
Wait,
gonna
yeah,
go
yeah,
anything?
let's- I want to
But
do.
you did it.
I want to do a couple more. I just linked. Let's skip to 32.
Oh, 32?
Yeah, I linked it in chat.
Well, I think it's as easy as just me
Oh, you just
changing
type
the
in
number at the top
Yes.
to
Yeah,
32.
yeah.
Yeah.
32.
Oh.
Change the number.
You guys
This
have
is
really
fun.
good site navigation.
This is Brad and Draco, our super strong antagonists meeting our evil mad scientist. Or sorry, they're both protagonists. This is
And again,
our
notice
the hero-
that the strong hero is wearing a red shirt with black hair, and the smart villain is wearing a white shirt with blonde hair.
It's just-
Seriously, what happened?
color schemes. They're just
He also
green
has
is an
Game
evil
Boy's
color.
hair.
And red, white, and blue are just the American colors, which are obviously the good colors.
Yeah. Well, and
So-
also the primary colors. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Anyway, let's voice act this one. Bonk. Sorry about that.
no
No
problem.
problem.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
Here, let me help you pick up your stuff.
That's not necessary.
Why do you have your enriched uranium in your backpack?
Chemistry homework?
What kind of a lie is that?
A bad one. Give me a minute.
Skip that one. Yeah, we don't need to do Labor Day.
Yeah, none of the holiday stuff.
I actually like that you guys were willing to do those one-off gags.
That was fairly common in webcomics back then.
It was. I can't believe it. You're one of those dastardly villains from the Dark Hearts Academy.
I can't believe you used the word dastardly in a sentence.
This is great. A supervillain on my first day of school?
Huh. My smartphone actually survived being dropped for once.
This is just what my reputation needs. If I take down this dork, my classmates will know that Brad Jenkins is the all-star of justice. I'll be a hero. Hey, where are you going?
Origin stories are lame.
It's true.
Twitless absolutely believes that.
I definitely hear Twitless's authorial voice dripping from this.
Especially from Dr. Draco.
Oh, really? Are we going to get a strip about Gene Con then?
Not so fast, evil science nerd. All-Star can't let his first villain escape.
My name is Dr. Draco, you supercilious, factious lummox.
I have no idea what you just said, but it sounded evil.
Ha! You can't even comprehend the English language. How can you even hope to respond to my unparalleled brilliance? I commend your effort. Effective retort.
My,
Who-
you look
who's-
like. Oh, who wants to be the grandma?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Mike, you look like you've had a run-in with a superhero.
Yes, I got my chemistry homework taken by one of the sycophants from Hero High.
You lost your enriched uranium on your first day? That's not good.
Don't worry, I have a plan.
You're going to build a death ray and blow up his house?
Oh, I'm going to use the most heinous superweapon ever devised. Breaking news! Schoolyard bullies are stealing chemistry homework.
That lying little punk. Son, the police would like a word.
Okay, so we can pause there. I got I think one more that just to skip ahead. That's one of my favorites that
Which
I think
number?
really sells the strip. Okay, so that one's going to be Attack 48.
Is it just 48?
Should be just
There we
48.
go. Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to be the nerdy Marm? You want to be?
Oh.
No, Marm, you're already stupendous.
This
I'll be Gunterman. I see. Some of us are still learning how to use doors and chairs properly. Take one, pass it down. It's time you wannabe vigilantes learned how to properly conduct yourselves during a superpowered street fight. The first thing you need to do is make sure that all liability insurance paperwork for each participant or bystander is filled out in triplicate. Yes, question the front.
Why is all this necessary?
There may have been an incident that resulted in some obstructive legislation.
Take this, evildoer.
He's throwing a taxi at Evil Emperor Zurg.
Are we going any more after this, or did you just want this one strip?
Cartoonicus, did you have one you wanted to show?
Oh gosh, you wait till now to ask me that?
No, he asked you earlier to get it ready.
That is true.
I'm going to hit random here and see what comes up.
Oh, random? Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. What did you get?
Let's see here. Oh, okay. This is a good one. Here, I'm going to go back a couple strips. Actually, I'm choosing one, but based on.
Okay, so you picked random and then choose the one two steps back.
Right.
What's the number?
I'm getting it here.
It's like I'm just going to keep hitting random till it gives me one that I like.
No. I'm hitting back until I find the thing.
Neostar says good old Irish granny. Nanji says accurately predicted internet cry bullying. Yeah, we're really ahead of the times. Let's see here. Neostar says secret technique taxi toss. Just the way the strip worked out with the expression on the guy's face, to me, like, killed me. Just the absolute terror it sold exactly what I wanted in this strip, and I absolutely adored it.
As he throws a taxi at Zurg from Buzz Lightyear Star Command.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, go for 179. The dialogue on this is awesome.
So,
and he says also a lot of these jokes are victims of being thought up before the MCU ran these jokes into the ground.
So understand in this chapter, Draco has actually infiltrated the hero's school dressed as essentially a Rob Liefeld character.
Guess which one?
from the future.
Who's playing the girl?
I will if you want.
Okay.
You look familiar, Shyborn. Have we met before?
Certainly, for the first time now.
Pardon?
Because I'm from the future. Now is before. So yes, we met before because we're meeting right now.
So wait, is right now before too?
Yes, but it's later. Before that came after that. After the before it.
So if I'm talking to you in the past, what happens when I talk to you in the future 5 minutes from now?
We will have been having a conversation.
Time travel really plays havoc with grammatical tenses.
It certainly did.
Xavier Will did.
It certainly Will did. Yeah.
Certainly Will did. My brain dropped the will out there and said that should be right.
Right.
So I
actually talk like this all the time.
I have to confess, I lifted elements of this joke mostly from an episode of Xavier Renegade Angel.
I think we actually talked about this before.
I really appreciated hearing you guys talk about like Foxtrot and Xavier Renegade Angel, because I started seeing it in the strip. There's elements of Tails in Dr. Draco because he has a 300 IQ and he's yellow, right? Like I definitely see you guys in the work.
That's cool.
That is but Foxtrot was an absolute accident, though.
I put a lot of Calvin and Hobbes in here.
Yes,
a little bit of
Draco. I'm convinced Draco is Calvin at age 14.
The two main characters very much resemble Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
Which basically means that it's Pogo. I get to plug Pogo one more time.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, right? So anyway, Nanji says, I am so mad at this guy. and Neo says, screw you, grammar Nazis.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully everybody can see the difference in the art quality at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is
Also,
this is,
I love to point out Mrs. H's amazing
oh
joke.
gosh,
That's something
I just
I
got
think
that.
I put it up there. I don't think you guys noticed how funny that joke was, so I have to tell.
No,
you
I
about it.
yeah, it took me a second. I'm slow.
No, I have the comic on the screen that I also have StreamYard on, so I didn't get to see it until just now.
Yeah, I have.
That is exactly the kind of title that Twitless would have named that strip.
Something else I want to mention about the art. I kind of feel like, a nice warm spot in my heart because this reminds me of Shaolin Showdown a little bit.
I can see that. At the time, I not exactly influenced, but I was able to justify the way I was doing things because of the superhero squad show.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That's a good point. All right, let's start from the bottom. Well, actually, we have to skip.
Well, then
Cartoonicus.
we should also see the very last, the most recent strip, just so people understand how ridiculous this comic is getting.
Oh no! If you want to do the ridiculous, we need to pull one of the ones with the dinosaurs. I feel,
Why aren't there dinosaurs more in this?
While we pull that, I'll pull another dinosaur one.
That
but
last strip is pretty earth shattering.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna kill you. This was, I think this one is a bad one to go to because like the lack of context.
Right, they have no idea what is happening.
Mazel tov.
The sheer lack of context here.
But that is our comics summed up, right?
Sheer lack of context. No, there's plenty of context if you read the entire thing. But let's start with Larry. What did you enjoy about Super Schools?
Well, the thing I enjoyed about Super Schooled is this feels like classic web comics. Everything that I liked from the golden era of web comics, of which this was produced in that period. It gives me all those warm feelings. I definitely felt Twitless authorially inserting himself into Draco, and it felt okay. It didn't feel like it was being tawdry or overused. And this feels like this could have been a Flash cartoon. I totally could see this as a Flash cartoon.
I'll take it. I'll take that. I will say that I inject Draco may be the character I identify with the most, but I identify with like half the cast, and that I think so. Like, heck, I started identifying with Captain Stupendous, and there was even a moment with I think Captain Planetarium.
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about him in a second, but
yeah, that whole storyline is nuts.
That was one of my favorite third acts, though, for a chapter.
The Captain Planetarium, the recycling center.
No. Sorry, the baseball game.
Oh, the baseball game. Okay.
Which had Captain Planetarium.
That's right. He did show up. So if you want to pull up something crazy, pull up strip 362.
362.
After the superheroes, after our heroes and villains started messing around with the time stream so they could gain a little time back. So Brad could go to a baseball game and Draco could catch up on a date he was supposed to go on. It only had a couple ripple effects.
Hold up. Did you make a dinosaur axe cop?
Kind of.
I was unaware of Axe Cop when I actually created or drew what's his name? Officer Magnum.
Who then now we have a dinosaur
apparently
version.
Twitless was not, and so he somehow his subconscious came to mine.
But yeah, so we've got they used in order to travel back in time, they decided to have Captain Stupendous use his time strength and throw them so hard they broke the time barrier. So to protect themselves, they wrapped themselves up in bubble wrap to cushion their fall. Unfortunately, they left the bubble wrap back in time, and the dinosaurs used it to survive the asteroids.
That sounds very Boba.
Of course, without the dinosaurs being extinctified, they were able to gain supremacy over the planet.
Extinctified?
Extinctified. That's a perfectly cromulent word.
So anyway, so that's the kind of logic I like to apply to Super Schooled. But one thing I have applied and I've been fairly consistent with, I think, is when the timeline breaks, I usually leave it stay broken.
Never
So the
look
timeline
back.
the timeline keeps breaking. The world keeps making less and less sense.
And that's why it ends up exploding in the most recent panel.
But yeah, at least we're committing to the bit. But okay, so Marm, let us have it. What did you think of Super?
All right,
Schooled?
I have a couple strips I'm looking at,
Okay.
and then I have, but when I save them, the numbering's kind of weird. So I don't know if these are going to be easy to pull up. Can you pull up the origin for Garbage Can Man?
Oh.
Hold on.
So maybe while you're looking,
I've seen that. I've read that one. I just don't remember what number.
In
it is.
another news, Twitless likes to be very cruel to some of his characters.
all right. So while you're looking for that, I will try to give you my overarching thoughts. So, but like I was saying back with Forces of Good and Evil, it's like the format is forcing me to think about like the format of comics itself, right? So, I think you do a good job of using the beats of the newspaper comic strip. You guys know this medium. You love this medium. I see it in kind of like how you find those beats, right? I felt like in the first arc, Twitless, you were probably going for like the obvious superhero gags, but already kind of like by the end of the first arc, you were starting to introduce your particular sense of humor, right? And the way I describe it is it's kind of like this comic is very cozy. It gives me maybe like 4 strips that are kind of like, yeah, that's fun, that's goofy. And then you'll throw in like one really sharp comic that's really different or not unexpected. And it kind of keeps me in this like nice place where I'm kind of like enjoying myself. And then once in a while you give me a puzzler. You're not too pretentious and you're not completely dumb, right? So
I'm not too pretentious. Here we go. Best compliment I've ever received. You're not too full of yourself.
You're right in the middle. You're right in the Goldilocks middle between those two Aristotelian flaws. There you go. So, yeah.
Taking
you
the
can't
path
find that
less
one.
traveled.
The other one I really liked was when Finn was in the guidance counselor's office, and on the wall is a poster that says "This is not a cigar." And I just thought this was an art nerd for an art nerd, and it's a double joke. It's this is not a pipe, and it's Sigmund Freud's. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like Rick and Morty. To be fair, you have to really understand.
Yeah, those are
understand
my,
Rick and Morty, right?
Marv
But-
gets my pretentious jokes. For Garbage Can Man, it's 98. Go with 98.
Okay.
Yeah, you could tell I've read up to 230 because a lot of them autocomplete as I'm typing them in.
Can I read this one?
Go ahead.
All right. Super Schooled Origins present Garbage Can Man, a nameless man whose rejection from society resulted in his turning to villainy. My name. No one cares. Cursed with the ability to generate a noxious field of refuse, Garbage Can Man is nothing more than a walking landfill. His life is a pitiable waste, completely rejected by everything and everyone. He embraced his identity and became the enemy of all things that were wanted or desirable. He is a loner with no friends or family who accept him.
Mama loves me.
No, she does not. Here is a restraining order from her. Now, would you mind ejecting yourself from the panel?
Aww.
So mean.
Your stench is desaturating the color out of the strip.
Sorry.
That's beautiful.
So, Twitless as narrator. I have this theory that writers are more aware of what narrators are than artists are. So you have a few strips where the narrator it breaks the fourth wall, and like the narrator's words will start falling apart. Or in this case, the narrator himself is inserting into the world and making everything worse and worse. Okay, it also highlights. Earlier, I think I said I like the one-off gags. Like you take a break from the plot, and it's kind of like a Family Guy. That's a compliment. Like, people hate Family Guy gags, but for 4-panel strips, they kind of work because you're doing like a one-off, setup and delivery. and you even seem to be able to use these later. Like I noticed some of the one-off gags introduce characters who you used later, and sometimes you'd like revisit. I think we met Garbage Can Man before this, and then you revisited him and told the origin story of this background character. So you're very willing to hop in and hop out. Yeah.
I just clicked. I think the next one with Sarah Bellum, with a cameo of Jim Davis's favorite man.
Yes, that was very purposeful.
So would that have been you, Cartoonicus, acting on your own initiative, or was that
that was him? I think I put in the script just like some loser who's on the date, and then he was like, "I know what loser to put in there."
Make my Garfield minus Garfield time warp canon.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, was that behind the scenes that we talked about that idea, or was it? Did we talk about that one live?
That was this very night. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, not that long ago.
To the previous strip for a second. I cannot remember whose decision it was to base this character off of Singed from League of Legends.
Yeah, I definitely picked that up, but he does look like Singed.
I think that might have been me because I'm the big League Legends player.
I'm gonna share it here.
I was. Mrs. H says, "Well, I guess Garbage Can Man really shows that Twillis doesn't recycle the same tropes."
But
eyebrow wiggle.
Actually, Twitless makes jokes out of recycling the same jokes.
That's true. We have a whole plot line about the recycling center.
I remember it.
All right, I like the very first joke you recycle is one of the very first jokes in the series. Like I think it was in page 5 or whatever with the it was close to that when he knocks over the pillar, and then he also knocks over the pillar, and you recycle that joke within the same comic about talking about recycling jokes.
Yeah. That was exactly. That's right. That's Planetarium does that.
I have a criticism. So, and part of this is because I've only read up to chapter 3. So, the gags are where the gags are the most important part, and that's where you were delivering. Yeah. By the end of chapter 3, I still felt like when I got to the end of chapter 1, I thought, oh, I get it. The twist is that Brad and Dr. Draco are going to be buddies, even though they're at 2 different schools. And then they don't interact much after that. There are like couple scenes of them at the bus station, but it's almost like their friendship's happening in the background, and then the goofy plot.
Oh, you broke up there.
Did we lose them?
I don't know. Marm, you there?
Oh dear.
We'll skip to the Metal. Metal, what did you like about Super Schools? We'll come back to that.
Quite a bit I like about it. It was mostly the humor. I think in general, I like a lot of the direction of the jokes, and I think that's mostly because you and I have a lot of the same opinions about comics, like structurally and as a medium. Mm-hmm. So there's just like a lot of stuff I appreciate about it as we're reading. I also really liked the character of Emily. I think she's a very fun character, and just all the kooky things, and like the fact that I think it was her uncle is the guy who actually runs the other school, right. And I like how I'm not sure if he has a head or not, or like whether it's actually always covered in shadow, or if it is shadow. That's probably part of the joke as it reads. But I like him as a character. I like that whole little side family thing that's going on.
Did you read the baseball game one?
I think I stopped right in the baseball game.
Because like you'll like the conclusion to the baseball game because Emily and Principal X get some it's the first time we actually really see Principal X using his powers actually. Nice. And he's got like the most OP power in a sense, but he also uses it in the least OP way.
Like a typical villain.
The whole shtick is that he has this crazy ability, but he uses it for the most like minor things, and like never to like really do something crazy. Okay, Marm, you were saying that you had a criticism.
Yeah, sorry guys, Dr. Draco erased me from existence before.
It's because you criticized the comic.
Yeah. By the end of chapter 1 kind of set me up to think, okay, Brad and Dr. Draco are the main duo. and then we don't see much of them. And then by the end of chapter 3, it's still almost kind of like a subplot, right? So I was actually kind of expecting it to be maybe there's a purpose, like, oh, we're changing your expectations. But I thought the hook was going to be the friendship between this villain kid and this superhero kid, and the interaction between them was going to be what kind of brings everything out of the world. And then you started building up the rest of your cast, which was kind of interesting. Like by the end of chapter 3, we've really got a good sense of Liz, and she's kind of like a adorable Lisa Simpson, kind of a liberal Greenie, but endearing despite that. Finn, the loner, seems to have more to him. He's literally, the joke of him has been that he's just the background guy nobody pays attention to, but he seems to have a heroic side. So Super School feels more like an ensemble piece than Forces of Good and Evil does. Like I don't get.
I would
the
absolutely
same...
agree with that.
Yeah.
I just like making characters up and making
sadly true.
And making Carcoonicus draw them because they amuse me. So like it's just that's why there's so many of them.
We really need to get some characters like Emily and Tom back in the spotlight. It's been way too long.
We'll do it next time. But like it's half the fun of the strip is like
tomorrow never comes.
Yeah, with So I will say though that we do often tie it back into Brad and Draco.
Yeah.
So they're usually, although a couple of the jokes in some of the stories is the fact that we actually purposely recede them into the background. There's a whole chapter called, I think, Side Action, where supposedly Brad and Draco are like doing something super important, but every time that like you would get like a detail about it, we completely cut back to just the supposed side characters who we put front and center instead. So sometimes that's actually a joke of like, it was you expected the main characters, but it was me, Dio, all along.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the strength of Super Schooled. It's not primarily about the relationship of these two men. It's the interesting stuff you do with gag writing itself. And you were actually talking about this earlier. It's what you praise in Matt Reese's work because you do it. It's setting up the obvious gag, but then going in another direction. And it's different than subverting expectations. Subverting expectations in narrative is about kind of like undermining what you expect of a narrative. In gag writing, I think it's more important because so many newspaper strips, they run for decades and decades, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of those gags have been done. So your playful attitude towards the medium, I think is really helpful. You do fourth wall breaks that, like this strip especially, that don't just sort of break the fourth wall, but reinforce a central gag of beating up on one poor guy, right?
yeah, poor guy.
We are such bullies.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Like, I
but
almost feel bad about it.
It is still subverting expectations, but like in comedy, that's what you're supposed to do. So it actually fits there. The whole point of comedy is to subvert what you expect, and then it's funny.
Right.
So it fits very well.
So I have a question for the panel. So has anyone read the strip Metal? You might have the Midnight Litter Who Strikes at Midnight.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my question is, do you know the identity of the Midnight Litter Who Strikes at Midnight?
I even looked at it carefully because after that, it seemed to go away for a while. So I just thought, could he be just a one-off mystery man who we will never see again? He's an eternal enigma.
Okay. So that was a reference.
Yeah, I could
to
bring it up. Do you know what? Oh yeah, the tick. Okay. Do you remember what panel that was?
Oh
what
gosh,
page?
not off the top of my head.
Well, it's going to be at the end of Earth Week, so we just do that and we skip to the end.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It did sound like a tick bit. That part I
That's
Yeah,
good.
the
picked
Midnight
up on
Bomber
it.
What Bombs at Midnight was from
Yeah.
the first season of the Tick
Yep.
cartoon.
I mean, he has a similar nose structure to Garbage Can Man.
I thought it was.
Hold on, 1 second. Let me see if I can pull it. Here it is. It is strip 120.
I thought it was at the end.
I don't know.
Yeah, he
Maybe it's like
definitely
the
is like
spaghetti incident. There should never be an answer to what the spaghetti incident is.
So the only reason I bring it up, and so this will be a stream exclusive, is that this is supposed to be a character that you recognize at some point. So that was my there are the breadcrumbs, but Marm is definitely on the right track, is what I'll say. But no. That's the best question I can ask. Cartoonicus, did you have a question you wanted to ask the panel?
Who's your favorite character?
Oh, that's a good one.
I already
Oh,
answered that.
Draco.
You like Draco?
I mean, the principal's also a great character.
Everybody, I'm sure, is gonna love Captain Stupendous.
Marm,
Yeah.
what was your Marm? Was it Captain Stupendous? Was he your favorite?
I mean, I like him. Draco's the standout character to me.
Okay.
In the first 2 chapters. I like. Okay, here's one specific thing I noticed is when he's in the cafeteria arc, he keeps bugging the witch. The witch keeps turning his head into different things, and he has to go to the science lab and scientifically find a way to turn his head from a pickle back into a normal.
Oh my
head.
gosh! Oh, we have to pull that up now because of the pickle reference.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Turned myself into a
Yeah.
pickle.
Yeah.
Funniest thing I've ever seen.
Well, now to answer that, may I point out, and you'll see in a second here, every time she turned him into something, she was using vials that were labeled radioactive. She was using machinery. The whole thing was actually turned from just an average, stereotypical Halloween witch into like this, radioactive garbage lady, basically.
She's still technically a witch.
Yeah. Magic.
I'll go to strip.
The magic
go to
in the world of
60.
the natural. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Strip 60.
60. Yeah. So this is for Mrs. H.
Oh, gosh.
So the lunch lady has been
pickle,
turning
yeah.
Draco's head into a sandwich because he said, "Make me a sandwich," and so she did. Seriously,
So ridiculous.
who turns someone's head into a peanut butter and pickle sandwich?
I like pickles.
Are you even human?
Who wants?
Sometimes.
What are you doing?
Synthesizing an antidote. There, science always triumphs over magic.
Your head is still a pickle.
I can see that.
Now you can make yourself a sandwich anytime you get a haircut.
So apparently, pickles have been in my mind for a bit, for a hot minute.
Yeah, I ran across that one today. I was like, oh my god.
Well, that's my favorite character right there. Is
Emily?
Miss Evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's she's good for deadpan jokes.
Yeah. But I like for 2 reasons. One, she kind of reminds me like she's a character that belongs in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Like she
Yeah.
has that total feel. to her.
She was actually based on, what was her name? There was a character from Meet the Robinsons.
Meet the Robinsons, yeah.
With a creepy little girl in the beginning.
But no, but there's
Yeah.
a bit of Mandy in her personality, I would say. I've watched a little bit of Billy and Mandy, so it's probably true.
Yeah, and even her relationship to her uncle's almost like Nurgle and Nurgle Jr. to a degree. But I also just I can relate to this character a lot because everything that's like abnormal
That's
is
right.
just completely normal to her.
Actually, the fact that she speaks and the black word bubble with the green text comes out and then that becomes whatever abomination she's creating, that I did actually lift slightly from what's Bleedman's comic about Billy and Mandy.
Oh God, I remember that.
That detail is one of the best details that Cartoonicus came up with, because I was like, oh, she has magical powers, and then Cartoonicus is like, I'm going to make it so that her magical powers are like she speaks and it's her word balloons that become them. It is extremely well done. It's very inventive. Cartoonicus often finds little ways to tweak on some of the ideas that I've got. I'll have like the seed of the idea, and then Cartoonicus, like the witch. I wanted there to be a witch, and then Cartoonicus is like, let's go with this alchemical route that makes her much more memorable than just her being a typical witch. And the same thing with Emily. The way her powers work are just so cool. Like it's actually like so cool. It's like I want to use this in like a legitimate superhero comic. You know?
Yeah.
Are you saying
I mean, a legitimate, serious superhero comic.
But also
come
like
on,
how
You have,
it
you
bleeds
have
in a
Draco
lot
show up in
too.
a Mega Girl. Draco
Right,
would
and
totally
think
be
a
like
Mega
a
Girl-
cross-dimensional traveler.
I think Omega Girl might make an appearance in Super School. Just
Well,
as a
okay.
side thing.
If I may say, Reese, if you'd be up for doing some kind of swap, character crossover,
Like a wife swap.
saying.
No.
No,
Not
with
that
your
kind of
superheroes
swap.
instead, but like a wife swap.
No, not like that.
So
Have universes collide?
Reese, who was your favorite Super School character? We never got your opinion.
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess part of the thing is like so. Dr. Draco in the first thing is the most well shelled out character.
Mm-hmm.
I love Emily, like on the page for all the reasons everyone said. But I think my like one of my favorite recurring gags from Super Schooled is the Nightman segments, breaking through Brad's bedroom at night. But that's not necessarily that. I wouldn't say that makes Nightman my favorite character. I just think that that's a hilarious gag. So, and the fact it keeps happening, but but in the first and I never talked about comments earlier on the thing. One of the things that in the first bit, Brad's character's like super shallow, and his motivations. I mean, and of course, like Greg. I mean, like Chad is too, but Chad is entirely supposed to be. But I feel like Brad, like that in the first bit makes it harder to like see, like for me in to buy into the friendship with him and Draco.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that's probably addressed later on with some of the stuff that you've talked about that I haven't gotten to reading yet.
Sure.
But it's one of those things where it's like you spent a lot of time in the first chapter, especially the first two chapters, demonstrating like Draco's mind and his schemingness and his like like just before the lunch lady segment, right, where he's talking about how the whole hero system is stupid because they don't just let brilliant people do what they want, and they're not hurting anyone. They're just trying to live their best life while he's putting a mind control device on one of his fellow students to turn him into a brain slave. But even that like lack of self-awareness and that funniness is still endearing because it puts such clear and like to the core of his person motivations about his view of himself in the world, and that's not necessarily there with Brad in the beginning. And that's one. So I just that's if I was to have a critique,
sure,
that's that. But the other thing is like because you do the strip format, right? I think your comic is easier for people to pick up, right? Because it's not that you don't go back and refer to things, but it's that like every strip is like so self-contained, right? You can get you guys do such a good job of everything you need to make that strip hook you in 4 panels, right? And in Forces, I think there are some of the concepts that we've played with that nobody like. I think unless you really dig on the characters, that I think that click of that next page button is a lot harder than it is with Super School. I think you get such a complete set of jokes in those 4 panels that you're like, yeah, I'll have more of that. Click, yeah, I'll have more of that. And I think you guys do a great job of making every 4 panels have so much impact that like you really want to click the next panel. And that's something that I'm jealous of.
Every strong strip becomes a part of like a cumulative experience, right? So the narrative elements can actually be less important sometimes. It actually kind of sounds like purposefully you do kind of want to avoid just having this be the Brad and Draco show. So it was kind of weird that the thing I didn't like is, well, I wanted to see more of Brad and Draco, but the thing I liked is I liked the expanded cast. And by the end of chapter 3, I do want to read more. It's kind of like I want to read more, and I want to know what Brad and Draco's deal is going to be. When's their big adventure coming?
Well, they take some trips through time together, so they definitely get to do a bunch. I would say that Brad, in chapter 2, Brad gets the best character building moments. So at the end of chapter 2, with the essay he writes / steals, but his moments with his mother,
his mom is great.
Yeah,
even like she's only in like really short periods of time. Like there's a genuineness that you write into Brad's mom. That's awesome.
Yeah, his dad, like the fact that his father is unfortunately passed away, his dealings with that. So Brad has the most pathos in the strip. The one time that like we just played around with like Draco's parents, it was like it was just like, he didn't really care, whereas with Brad actually has like, a deep care and even a wound, I guess, emotionally from that. And we let that show. Sometimes it's front and center. Sometimes it's background material. But that's, like I said, he gets the strongest pathos moments.
And that's another one of those weird parallel things we were talking about, too, right? Because Chad enforces between Chad and Greg, like Greg's got, 2 parents, stable home life, going to church, totally square Midwestern upbringing. And like Chad's home life is kind of a mess. Like his mom is his rock, but like his dad is like a total piece of crap. And so that's a factor in Chad's life. It's not the same mechanic, but it's a similar mechanic to Brad. But that's the factor in Chad's life that actually shapes so much of who Chad chooses to be as Forces moves along too. But I don't think we started getting into any of that until which story was that? Well, it was 2009 when we were working on that story, but I can't remember which one it was, but it was in 2009.
Well, I want to say my favorite Super School character, which is all of them.
Yeah,
and it rotates.
I love all my babies.
It rotates. My favorite is whoever I'm writing at the time, but I will say I have a special place in my heart for Hubris Bot.
Hubris Bot is a genius invention.
Okay, now what
that he keeps leaving behind.
Yeah. Hubris Bot reminds him of when Hubris Bot doesn't show hubris. Hubris Bot reminds him of when he is showing hubris, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Hubris Bot's function is to, and I can't remember if he says it explicitly or not, because I haven't read that strip in a while, because I didn't get the reading done, all of the assigned reading done for today. Sorry.
That's all right.
But I have read through that before, and Hubris Bot, I can't remember if Draco says it explicitly, but the function of Hubris Bot is to keep Draco from succumbing to his moral failing, so that he doesn't, wind up like other supervillains.
That's 156 if you want to pull up Hubris Bot.
Yeah, I'll get it in a second.
Which is highlighting like an interesting aspect of Draco is that he really wants to be good at being a supervillain. And
156?
It's not
156, yeah.
You don't make a big deal of it, but the fact that he doesn't have he's a genius, but he doesn't have a superpower. So he keeps up, but he does kind of have a behind the 8 ball weakness to him, that he's just using his brain in a world full of, people with super strength and fire powers that bully him, right? And I think he's the only one who calls BS on the supervillains being down for Earth Week 2. He has his own philosophy. He's not an NPC villain. He's a villain with his own philosophy of what villainy should be in the world, and he wishes to manifest that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good. You understand him better than I do.
I really do appreciate how much emphasis has been put on being a villain basically being a career decision and more of an identity than a just a description. And it's like when I grow up, I want to be a villain, right?
And
Here's the question: does being a villain have a good retirement plan?
Yes, I think it does in our universe.
You either die a villain or live long enough
to see yourself a villain.
hero.
But
so here's a question for you guys that I don't know if you want to get into here. You
Sure.
talk about being a villain is a career choice. In your universe, is it a choice?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you guys have hero school, you got villain school. Is being a hero or a villain a choice that you guys have?
Spoiler alert, but we actually see a character go from being a hero to being a villain.
Well, she doesn't. She goes from a hero to rogue. So she goes for the middle, actually. So it's more like hero, villain, pirate is a third choice.
So she goes to the Rob Liefeld program.
Yeah, I guess. But no, I sometimes just Marm, Reese, Metal, you know this. There's a certain point your characters just start writing themselves.
Mhm.
So I had intentions for a particular character, and I was like, "Here's what's going to happen," and then something else happened, and then I was like, "Oh, actually, this is what's going to happen," and then something like a door number 3 opened, and that happened instead. So I am only 60-70% in control of what's happening in this story. The characters kind of take the reins and just kind of, and the humor in the characters, and sometimes I feel much less in control than I should.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel that like the whole Chad and Jagged Princess storyline was not intended, right?
Oh,
We did a one-off joke with them in
Yeah.
chapter 4, and later on we went we were working through stories, and it just happened, and we did. I mean, like, that's something Chris and I just found that, like, okay, we're writing an
It
OTP
makes
here.
sense.
Yeah, well, it does, but like that was the fact that sort of kind of made sense was how the joke in chapter 4 at the mini mart, that's what it was for. But it was also one of those things where we didn't expect it to like shell out to anything. And so that's one of those things too. And yeah. And those of you guys who have read Joe Jobs, like there are seeds of where that ends up in 2012 that were laid down in universe in 2004. So
Cool. All right. Well, it's getting late, so I think we could probably put a pin in it there. But I think we should do one last pass and talk about the overlap these strips have.
Well, actually, real
connection
quick, I
between
have
them.
to correct you on something, Twitless.
Really?
Courier is the best X-Man woman.
Courier,
Yeah.
which I'm
Wait,
not familiar with.
that was the one who's in Gambit. Who
Yeah,
turned in-
connected loosely through the X-Men. And Gambit and Courier went back in time, and in like this crazy turn of events, Courier, who's a shapeshifter, lost the ability to turn back into a man, and his like permanent default state became a woman.
Okay.
So Courier is the best X-Man woman.
There we go. Okay.
that's
Kitty Pryde's the cute one.
that joke's got layers.
Yeah. That's deep lore.
That's funny. Okay, so some of the overlap. First of all, before we get to that, I do want to share something that I have got tucked away back here. Great television. Are you ready for this? It's amazing.
Okay. It is.
It's the best. Just because it got mentioned in the chat earlier, this is a fan art that Delicate did of Jagged Princess.
Oh wow.
nice.
Ooh, nice.
So
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. She's got some skill. You ought to read her comic, Am I a Monster Between Worlds? I think I got the title wrong. I think I said it back.
Oh wow, that is nice.
Yes.
Good at drawing eyes.
She's good at drawing everything. Especially adorable father-son moments. Hits me right in the heart.
Yeah.
But anyway, so similarities between Forces of Good and Evil and Super Schooled.
Oh my, here we go.
So
Well, clearly, both of you wanted to rip off My Academia so hard that you invented time travel to go back to 2003 and 2010 and publish it. You are the evil geniuses you depict in these works. They're autobiographies.
Realistically, the X-Men did it twice. Teen Titans did it twice, I believe.
Yeah,
we weren't ripping them off, only slightly.
Yeah.
The idea of superheroes in school, I think it's very natural because it really goes back to Peter Parker, Spider-Man, really, because he's a superhero in school, at least initially. And so superheroes in school is a very common idea. And so just kind of building off of that,
I'll also point out how X-Men literally put them in school as part of their situation.
Yeah.
It's like, come to us, we're going to teach you how to use your powers.
That's fair.
As long as sidekicks have existed, there's been that whole thing. I know that that was one of the big things that was for me. One of my big inspirations as I approached Forces was Peter David's Young Justice series back in the early 2000s. That was such a perfect blend of comedy and action comic booking. So it was regular Western superhero action, but funny. And it didn't sacrifice one for the sake of the other. So that was part of our thing. Also, the X-Men was definitely in the mix as we were coming up with some of the scenarios and settings and everything. But we also, Chris and I both had very loud opinions about the way public school was done. And so a lot of our setup is fairly thinly veiled political commentary about government bureaucracies.
So I get to now comment.
The aptitude test is an allegory to the SAT.
I now get to comment on a huge difference between a very probably even defining difference, and I think it is part of the spirit between the two strips. While Forces has that underlayer and even almost anger at the institution. Cartoonicus and I were both homeschooled. So we were completely looking on the outside and simply imagining it in a sort of fictional setting.
Oh, like a grass is greener type situation.
Not just even not even grass is greener. It's just the idea of just because we don't have the baggage, we can simply write from a place that is it's more free to just be silly, I guess.
I went to private school mostly. I did 1 year at public high school, but private schools aren't free of politics. So I still see how that shook out. And Chris was homeschooled, excepted I think 2 years of public school. So a lot of our opinions aren't personal. They're just things we've witnessed. And I had friends we knew who got chewed up by the system and all that kind of stuff. And knew how hard it was to all the paperwork you got to file if you're going to homeschool and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that the Department of Education has such long tendrils into stuff. Hey,
teacher, leave those kids alone.
I did make a joke about Common Core. So that did make it. That was my little joke at the system here and there. I throw it in there. I have some experience with the education system, but at a much different situation. Just a little.
That makes a lot of sense too, though, because as somebody who went all the way through public school, it makes me not want to ever write a comic about school because of how much I hate it.
I can see that.
Well, and of course, now this is something that we did go through, is that in this latest chapter, we put them in college.
Yeah.
And we were totally able to pull off of that.
Yeah, I was able to pull a lot of I know this element. So it's a lot. There's certain elements that I think resonate on a different level.
And I don't know how you guys approached this too, but one thing that definitely informed my part of Forces was not just my own history, not just the history of my friends, but I've been involved in youth work since 2003. I've been a professional youth worker. Well, 4. So that's something that like has just been part of the mix of what I do for a living. So seeing all these real life dramas play out. Not that I do a lot of pulling from the lives of the people, except in general themes, because at this point the characters themselves, it's their life energy that I'm working from.
Well, I've been a League of Legends player since 2012, and you can definitely see how I'm channeling all of my knowledge and experience there. I just. Okay, yeah, great. Now then pull
Yeah,
like
seriously. After that,
Yeah.
that's when he
after
brings us
after
up.
me saying that. Now pull
is
like.
this
our-
I just noticed, sorry, dude. I just noticed it was up there. I'm sorry.
It's been there for a while.
So this is, like I said, Brad gets the most pathos. Although one of our darkest jokes is how Brad's
Let's
dad
not go
died.
there.
No, you can read it.
But-
It's quite funny.
This was a Father's Day strip, literally. So,
Twitless, have you talked before? Like, how do you do pathos? Like, how do you do a deliberate pathos in a gag-a-day strip without falling down the loss route?
Right. So this one here is almost a one of a kind. We usually don't do very few, like almost any of these. Normally what I do is I mix it in with a joke, a dark joke, or what I'll do is because a 4-panel strip comics often have types of rhythms. You can go ba 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 ba-dumch for the joke. You can go ba kind of like pause joke. You can go but joke and then pause. So typically what I'll do if I want to have a pathos moment is it'll be like beat, somber moment to let the pathos happen, and then slight humor bump beat afterwards.
Yeah.
So there's a strip that we did very recently. If you go to our recent strip, and it's
I'm pulling it up right now.
the one with Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What's
that's
the
what we
number
did
on
there.
that one?
I love when comic artists and writers use music and drum rhythm to explain the writing process. It works.
I'm terrible at music. I just know that there is a
458.
there is a certain rhythm, and I've got terrible rhythm, but somehow I've got a little bit. But yeah, so this was our moment where it's basically beat, kind of slight pathos lead in, moment to let it breathe, and then slight, not like major like in your face joke, but slight humor moment. So
Sorry.
the setup here is that Liz's life has been ruined by all of the time travel that Brad and Draco have done. And so her life is kind of irrevocably changed, and Brad's starting to feel bad about it. He wants the old Liz back, but you can't just undo life experience by snapping your fingers. And
time travel here is a metaphor for life experience.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. I intended that. Liz's thing is the fact she can change into inanimate objects. And so, again, the concept of change for her has the double meaning. Oh, you gotta be on my level.
I thought this was brilliantly written, though, myself.
Yeah, this is great.
What you don't know about this is that it, like many of our strips, actually, it started out as a single strip. This and the one before it here. I'm going to go back. And what will happen sometimes is there's just... Twitless puts all his creativity into something, but there ends up being way too much detail for a 4-panel strip.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find the place where I can say, okay, hold on. What if we make this a joke and then this a joke over here? And so in this case, not only did I manage to make 2 strips out of it, but in doing so, I found the spot where I needed, like, I felt like we really wanted to hammer home that pathos. We needed that completely blank moment, right? Where they're just sitting there silent, no words, both realizing what each other is feeling.
Was that one of those ones where I crammed too much in a because I'm pretty sure I had the beat.
Absolutely, but it ended up the result ended up being beautiful. This is like my favorite strip of the entire comic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Especially after all this time has passed, right? Like this pathos is earned, I feel, right?
So there you go, Reese. There's the pathos that you wanted.
Yeah.
I
haven't got to that yet. That's what I'm talking about. Well, no, I mean, and like a lot of that says, and even when there is a lot more of in the I think it's the fourth story when Draco goes into like infiltrates Hero School, and so you see him and Brad interacting there in the hallways and stuff, and you get a lot of really fun banter. You get to see them play off, and their friendship gets to shine a lot more there. It just you don't get to see that as much in the beginning because of how it shakes up there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that was a fun one to write because they were being more buddy cop almost.
And when we got to field day, that was one of the joys that we had to do was we got, instead of just having brief snaps of Chad and Greg together, we got to have basically them together for the whole story. Sure. And so like I definitely know what you're saying with that, because like we were in that exact same spot in 2007, I guess it was, or 6 when we did that story.
But there's a similarity there too, right? For different reasons, but ultimately the same motivation. The two main characters become nemesis with each other out of their own personal convenience. Like it would be best for them. Yours is because they're forced to basically pick a nemesis, and it's like, oh, cool, we could just two people on a project write this off and not actually fight with each other.
Right. Yeah.
And the other ones, it's like, this could be good for like our social media and stuff in our careers if we're actually like rigging this and fighting against each other.
One of the things that I really enjoyed doing, this is off subject of where things cross over, but you were talking about the side characters Marmaduke was talking earlier about the side characters in Super Schooled and the outside of the ensemble. You don't really get to see it in these first 5 Forces stories. But one of the things that we really enjoy doing is building ensembles in each of the heroes and villain schools, so that as they have their villain school adventure or hero school adventure and the schools don't cross over, we still can have some of that fun on there. So the idea that like Chad and Breakdown and Connoisseur actually do become friends, even if they didn't intend it that way. Even if Chad never thought he could hang out with these guys, he still finds himself becoming friends with them. Whereas Greg suddenly does have a place in villain school, even if 2 of his companions are his sidekicks or his henchmen who have to be there anyway. There's a whole story called A Day in the Life, Part 1, The Deadly Bee, where it's the whole story is Greg and his henchman Lenny. Well, both of his henchmen are Lenny, but this is
the Lennys.
The Lennys. This is one Lenny.
That's a good one.
And he and Lenny just spend the whole day chained to each other, and that was hilarious to write.
That sounds hilarious.
Yeah. It's named after my favorite mystery. Well, one of my favorite Mystery Science theater movies, The Deadly Bees. So there you go.
Bees. My gosh.
So, but one of the things they were talking about that I was reading in Super School today that I could not get around. There was this scene, and let me find it here. I will share it on the screen.
Okay.
In Super School, I got the thing of me. Present, share screen, Brave tab.
Saying what I'm doing.
Yes. It's killing the dead air.
And you could have just told me the strip number.
Oh yeah, I could have. Strip 24. So here we have this whole idea about this joke about death rays and everything.
Yeah.
Right. From whenever this page was done. Right. But
2012.
2012. Meanwhile, right, and this is some great action, right? Meanwhile, back in, if I go back to the share the screen again, stop screen, present.
What I loved, Cartoonicus had slipped on the ray gun settings. He put
Mhm.
original recipe on one of the
That's
ray gun
amazing.
settings from like KFC. So it's funnier
That's
than the actual.
hilarious.
It was funnier than the main joke.
So, meanwhile, back all this is also 2012 that this was that we did this page. This is Greg and Dr. Deathray, and they are at a national villainy competition that's going on in a suburb of Denver called Fremont City. It's up in the mountains, southeast or southwest of Denver. And so Greg is his little group of folks are there, and he slips away, and he meets this kid under the bleachers, who is Dr. Deathray, and Dr. Deathray is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we're going on to the next page here. What are you doing here? I needed to get away from a while. My teachers are going a bit crazy right now. I thought I might take some time to myself, but I guess it's that's impossible, even under the bleachers. And Dr. Deathray says, oh, friend, you never want to be alone under the bleachers. I remember this time. I took a lovely woman under there, and dude, kid, you're like 10. So you all think. But you'll rue the day. Rue it. That seems a bit dramatic. Oh, sorry. It's just kind of frustrating. I'm stuck in this body as a 10-year-old. How old are you physically? I'm in a child's body, but I've got the memories of a 50-year-old man. So he goes on to explain how that happens in this segment, right? And this is the one. These art on these pages were done by Barry Tetz, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They're very interesting.
Yeah. He's got a fun style. I'm Dr. Deathray, and you may have guessed my nom de guerre. By my nom de guerre, I make death rays. All rays, really. Phasers, blasters, but I digress. 10 years ago, in the middle of a bank heist, I found myself face to face with Elastus. I had the drop on him with my death ray, but in the process, I dropped my wrench into the death ray itself. He evaded my blast, and I evaded his blow. The side effects were unfortunate. Wait, so it de-aged you? Shouldn't have you blown up or died? Death rays are not as predictable as you'd think.
Death rays don't always kill you.
And so I saw I immediately thought back to this sequence. Which you guys did in one page. We took like 4 to lay out this as part of our big narrative because it ties into other stuff going on. That there's
we do the Death Ray joke for a few because we did a couple surrounding that because he ends up
blows a hole in the school.
He blows a hole in the school.
yeah. Well, and you come back to it, but it's we took a really long way around the punchline. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, we're making virtually the same set of jokes at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things.
Very interesting.
So, but yeah, and also our design for Dr. Deathray and your design for Dr. Draco were shockingly similar.
I was gonna say there's definitely some.
Here's my theory. I think we're actually the same people in different universes.
Except we're in the same universe.
Super Schooled screwed it up. The characters erased the timeline, and now it's affecting us.
That's why
we gotta do a crossover.
That's why nobody's reading my comic.
Pretty soon you're going to be pulling Jane Smith out of a semi-realistic sci-fi universe into you guys' universe.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I already have an idea for that.
Yep. Okay, so by the way, that was not a joke. Please go ahead if you want.
The chat's going to want to know when is the Super School's forces crossover or bit.
Here's the thing, like a little background thing. Back in 2020, I approached Twitless and I said I want to write one of your stories.
Yeah,
I have an idea, but I need to get caught up on your mythos so that I can make it make sense.
Oh.
And then I decided to go back to college. Like 2 months after that. I mean, like, not even kidding. So I have not been able to just like get in a headspace. And then I also felt the urge to get kind of some of our stuff working on. And
And thanks to Mrs. H, we restarted Forces again after like a 2.5 year hiatus. So I have not had the time to get in a headspace to tell that kind of story. And also, you guys are, I don't know if you've moved beyond where the story in my head was, as far as with your time jumps and stuff.
Don't worry about our mythos. We took a battering ram to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best part about that.
We are gonna things are gonna make a little bit. We are gonna bring things back eventually to a quasi status quo. But I am very committed to the idea of when they, because like here's one thing that I will say. Not to brag or anything, but one thing that has bothered me about some other humor strips is like, oh, we're going to do a storyline where we bring the dinosaurs back, but it's only going to last for one storyline, and then things have to reset back because you can't have the dinosaurs come back because of reasons. No, I brought the dinosaurs back. They're staying back. I don't care what happened. And the thing I love about the timeline, the dinosaurs are back.
The thing I love about
the last panel is just going to be it's the first page of Dragon Ball. You created the Dragon Ball universe.
Well, and the crazy thing is that the thing I love about what you've done with all of that is it has the same, like, it's not the same process, but it's the same texture as the Nicole's did with Axe Cop, right? Where like Axe Cop, Axe Cop's brother becomes like Kazoo Cop for a while, and then like he's Kazoo Cop until Malachi decided he wasn't anymore, right? So
yeah, he committed.
Every time he shows up in the story,
it was Flute Cop.
Flute Cop, you're right, Flute Cop. But he's Flute Cop until Malachi decided to change it. So if he shows up, Ethan would draw him in there, even if like it wasn't like he hadn't changed. And so that was one of those things that like it had this bizarre continuity to it, that
dreamlike continuity.
But it was also a dedication to playing the joke out. And
So what I'm saying is that we are going to make things have gotten a little crazy as of lately, but so I'm going to uncrazify some of it. But there are certain things that will
destroy the world. How do you
Well, so I gotta have to dial it back a little bit.
I mean, they did that in the Hitchhiker's Guide too. You can come back from it.
Right, yeah. So we're gonna dial it back a little bit. We're gonna come back from this, but there are certain things, including part of the whole joke here was the fact that they left Liz and Finn in time, and their personalities changed dramatically as a result. And so another thing that a lot of other strips might do is to again return to status quo. And there's a little bit of that that we're going to do with Liz. We've already seen that, but I'm committed to the fact that no, the experiences she went through that changed her so much are not going to be completely undone. So I'm committed to when we do make one of those changes, and sometimes I'm hesitant to make them, but I try to stick with it. So
you're speedrunning and responding to DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths problem.
No, I'll tell you what he's doing. This is a League player coming out, right, with the spaghetti code from the system. And even though we're like 10, 12 years of patches later, you can still find this one bug about how the canyon minions on the blue side shoot like 2 frames shorter than the red side, and it affects the game.
That's an entire that kind of glitch is an entire story arc in Elf Only In. I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Oh God, I love Elf Only In.
Yeah,
Elf Only In.
I made Josh's acquaintance a couple of years ago over the internet because we like knew a bunch of the same webcomic people, and so there's several in continuity cameos in Force of Good and Evil of the Elf Only In characters. And
nice.
In fact, in Panic at the Ren Fair, I was able to show the IRL identity of one of his characters for the first time.
Was it Woot?
What? No, it was not Woot. It was not Woot. No, it's pretty obvious if you go back and read it. But yeah, I did that with his blessing, and we like mapped it out over instant messaging and all the whole thing. But yeah, so in my mind, Elf Only In is completely within canon in my universe, even if he doesn't ever go back to it, or you don't have to read both to get it. But if you do, everything that happens in Elf Only In can happen within my universe.
Interesting.
So.
right, well, it's getting
I was
really late,
just-
so we're
yeah.
gonna have to call it.
Which that's something that you guys haven't done at Super School, huh?
Which
Huh?
is what?
Having a whole other story arc from a whole different comic.
Oh yeah, not yet. No, we've not done that yet.
But that's why we need to do some guest comics for each other.
Yeah.
Speaking of cross projects, so I asked on Twitter if there was anybody who would like let me read their comic for a live stream, and Twitless volunteered. So
Hell yeah.
Matt, maybe you and Twitless should fight so you can get me to notice me, Marv Senpai, read my comic too. But I think it'd be fun.
You should read mine because it's the 5th anniversary of X Dynamis Chaos.
Yeah. But I gotta make this like a thing, right? Like I've got to get like a beer. I've got to like schedule a live stream. I'm gonna have to like marathon as much of the comic as I can before I collapse, right? So we've got to make an event out of like punishing Marm with reading out loud and as dramatically as possible as much of a comic as he can. So
well, if you're interested in dramatic readings, I gotta say, I think we do drama better.
Oh, in Forces of Good and Evil. So you're fighting real hard to pull me away.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we have some pathos. Like I said, we showed it already. There is some pathos. We just don't do it very often.
Yeah.
So you make it count when you do.
Yeah. Do like
okay. I'm gonna bring up an out of context page just to demonstrate here because the gauntlet has been thrown. This has got some heart, so just hang on a second. Let me locate it here. That one's good too. Okay, actually, I'm going to spoil the ending of a story. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh my!
I think that's the one.
We might have to. I might have to get to. I do have to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
all right.
Yeah.
We can hash that. We can hash this stuff out.
East Coast is getting late.
It's fine. That's fine. It is super late.
Any closing words before we break?
It was my favorite. It was my favorite indie web comic about superheroes going to superhero and supervillain schools of all time. Good job, everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It was. Fair enough.
Read Forces of Good and Evil.
There you go.
There you go.
That's nice. Okay, it's while we're doing that, I will say superschool.com is you can get that. It's really easy. It's spelled funny, but it's easy to find. So go ahead and check that out.
We're literate.
Almost the entirety of Forces is available on forcesofgoodevil.net.
.net. Yep.
Almost all of it. We haven't gotten all of the current pages from senior year formatted for that website yet because we've been having some technical problems and some communication issues and time marching on. But if you go to idealcomics.net and you go to read comics, there's a drop down of all of the in-universe stuff that is officially part of our universe. Some of it's available online. Some of it's available as you can get it on Global Comics. Some of it's on Webtoon. We've got stuff that you could buy comics on a Gumroad and all that kind of stuff. So, or there's even some stuff that's just on idealcomics.net, including the hilarious Adventures of Grabbit. So the rabbit superhero, check it out. So that's the story, guys. Buy let the Adventures of Make a Girl on the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the name of the site? Indie Planet.
Yeah. Do we have a plan for? Do we have what we're doing next week?
I don't think we do.
All right. Stay tuned. Late, we'll tell you. We'll figure it out. We'll tell you guys.
Talk tomorrow or something. So, okay.
Use that community tab feature.
Well, I actually wanted to plug a link real quick.
That's okay. Man.
And it's a specific page on the website. It is, as of today, X Dynamis Chaos is 5 years old. I published the first page 5 years ago, and I'm holding a 5th anniversary event. There's only a few days left for it, but anybody can participate if they want. All I need is a quick image with a transparent background, so it can be a PNG or a TIFF file of like any character from X Dynamis Chaos, and I will put into a collab due by midnight Saturday. I'll go California time.
Well, there
Alrighty.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check out X Dynamis Chaos. Check out Jane Wannabe Gladiator. I think that's we hit everybody. Check out
Jane Smith, Wannabe Gladiator on Webtoons.
Yep.
And Larry's got some stuff that's available on mattcrocs.com. Yep. So there you go. That's everybody.
Wait,
else
why are we
channel.
plugging his stuff? He wasn't here.
No,
Well, it's because
Larry-
I wrote stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Larry
okay,
for
okay,
Matt.
yeah, you participate.
Yeah,
I got
it
it,
plugs
I got you.
Larry too.
Matt,
Plus,
Matt,
It's
and,
always good to plug Matt Krotz
Matt
anyway. I mean,
Krotz
he's a
is
cool guy.
always here with us.
He
And,
enters our meme mindscape and makes us just want to talk about Kyrie all the time. Yeah.
And Matt and I have a project that we're finalizing the final script on to its most final part, so we'll get the art done, and then we'll have a whole lot more to talk about. We're actually talking about maybe trying out Twitter Spaces, that little voice thing, to see if we can start promoting comics in a new social media venue.
All right.
Ooh, sounds fun.
All right.
So
He's having technical difficulties.
I
He
hit
shall
the wrong
return.
button. I'm gonna go ahead and put that up there as a closer. Good night, everybody, and tune in next week for I don't even the faintest idea. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Something with comics in it.
Something about comics, or pamphlets of some sort with pictures and your favorite.
It'll be about the Yellow Kid. We'll talk about the Yellow Kid.
The printing press and the development of Western civilization.
Woodblock.
Tune in next week. We will put all of you to sleep talking about printing.
Good night.
Night.
Deli says, and I say good night. And until next time, keep reading Forces of Good and Evil.
Keep reading our comics.
Good night.
Bye-bye.